Ladies and gentlemen, winner of the Trent, New Jersey Hot Lips Contest, Billy Buckethead! Beneath the sky, the maggots I walk, kill those maggots and get too drunk. I can't get God to receive my gift. Wait and I can feel the planet shift. What the fuck? Maggots! Maggots! Now in the house, somebody grow low. Flash of fear when he sees my soul. I rape his woman, smoke his blood. Evil order underneath his throne. Maggots! Maggots!
Hello, it's me, Kevin Vonesper. Welcome to the GWARPod. You guys have done it. You have packed the house tonight. I can't even get through all the comments. So, oh my God. And don't worry if I don't get to you immediately. I'm going to get to you at some point. Hello, everybody. It's going to be the weightiest episode so far tonight. Definitely the beefiest. It's going to be a cool place to pod tonight. All the things. We have one of my all-time heroes. I've been waiting 30 years to have this conversation. And I know you guys are going to help me have that conversation. Get in all your questions. Let's find out. Let's pick the brain of Mr. Dr. Professor Michael Bishop tonight on the GWARPod.
GWARPod comes from on GWARPod. 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 GWARPod.
Hello, Michael Bishop.
Hello.
Welcome to the GWARPod.
It's good to be here.
Thank you for being here. You are, well, I guess Matt was the first current member to be on here, but you're the first band member. So, of the current lineup.
Right.
Wow, I have so much to talk to you about. Like I said, I've been waiting to have this conversation for 30 years. For a little bit of context, I got into Gwar when I was about 10 or 11 years old in, let's say, 1994. So basically right when you left. But the newest album at the time was This Toilet Earth. It's probably still to this day my favorite record of all time, not only just a Gwar record. And my first new album was Ragnarok. And let
Wow.
me tell you, I've been playing these for almost 30 years because of you. So that's my story.
You've only got 3 strings on it there, you know.
I know it's a little. Actually, this one doesn't work for various reasons. But I started out with this little knockoff here.
Oh
It's
wow, you got a
Spirit.
lot of them.
Yeah. Hey, you were the tone. You were like. I know everybody loves Dave and Odorous, but you were always my favorite because I was a bass player, and something about your style, your tone, it just spoke to me, and I still feel that to this day. So thank you for being here and talking to me.
No problem.
What's going on over there? How is Gwar? Are you getting ready to tour the world again?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I just did my taxes.
Oh yeah,
Fascinating
this is gonna be
stuff.
a really exciting conversation.
Really exciting conversation. You know, and I'm in Sarasota, Florida, which is
Right.
where I live, and you know, I've been really enjoying an extended time off, which I haven't had
Yeah.
in a long time. I mean, it's given me a chance to do a lot of writing, and
Musically or otherwise.
well, both musically and lyrically, and you know, and then my job is writing. I do
Right.
a lot of editing. So really, I've just been sort of working at my job, and when I'm not doing that, I'm working on music for different Gwar and Gwar related projects, or
That's a tease right there.
Gwar.
Gwar related projects. We'll come back to that one.
Okay. But you know, so I've just been doing that stuff and hanging out with my kid and my
Yeah.
wife and trying to go fishing here and there, and that's about it. You know, I have a little studio here that I can work in, and usually what I do is around about. I mean, I just work from sort of 9 to 5 and play with my kid until about 8:30, and then go out
And
in the
it's Gwar
studio
time.
and work on music.
Nice. Yeah. Is that how I guess the newest material kind of came together during the pandemic? Did everyone have their own little personal studios?
Kind of. I mean, yeah, you know, maybe Brad. I don't think Brad does,
Right.
but you know, Dirks has a pretty nice space, and Brent has a couple of spaces that he works at.
I've seen his wall of amps.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, yeah. I mean, it was weird like that. It was more like we had to do it like. I don't think we're going to do it that way this time, but because we've never done anything like that. You know, you have
Right.
to. The way that Gwar wrote music when I was in the band before was that we would get together and perform, and usually like come up with riffs, or you know, but we did this sort of all in one place at one time, or you know, Mike and I like we lived together for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, me
Okay.
and Dirk. So you know, we'd work on stuff at home and then come in. I lived with Dewey for a while too. We did the same thing. And you know, then we get together and run through the material and sort of improvise a little bit. And I mean, that record that you're talking about, you know, Pete was there, and he made a really big difference, and it was a lot of fun. I remember a lot of that record was written in the slave pit on Chamberlain. You know, it wasn't a lot of sort of like bringing things, you know, because Pete he had a lot of material. But the way that we used to handle that was that everybody would sort of jam out on what somebody brought in and make songs, and you know, so we had to do it a different way than this time around. And yeah, that's what we did. We just sort of recorded our you know, I mean, I wrote a number of songs, some that made it on the record. Brent did too. Dirks did, and we did sort of get together for these little spurts of time.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly what we do during those times is just frantically improvise and record. You know, and I think that process is maybe why Gwar is less sort of beholden to genre than other bands. You know, is because that's always how we wrote. So we did do that, but I mean, compared to how we used to do it, I mean, that used to be the only thing we would do. So it was very different to sort of come in with like a full song, you know, and have everybody learn it. And I'm not sure that I liked it, right? Like
the process or the record.
Well, I mean, they sort of, if you made the record, they sort of become the same thing, you know. But it's no, I think I like the record. It's more like
We're talking about the New Dark Ages, right?
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Right. So you know, New Dark Ages. I mean, a lot of it, you know, I would write a song like Motherfucking Liar, right? Like that song, you know. It's funny because I was looking for drums, looking for stuff to play on top of, you know. I kind of try to adapt the process of improvisation, just do it by myself, right? So I'd take like some drums from either, a lot of times it'd be that I recorded of Brad, or that you know, I just take some stuff off of somebody else's record and just listen to it and start sort of, you know, making loops of it and playing along with it. And, you know, and then you come up with a whole song and you send it to the rest of the guys. And, you know, that's a very, I mean, it changes a lot, but by the time it's recorded, it always does. But, you know, that's a much different process than we've ever used before, because the stuff would be written in a room, you know.
Right.
And yeah, I'm not sure that that you get the very best. I think that there's a way to do it that we could get more out of it, and that would be that spending more time together. You know, sort of doing half and half. Like this way, it felt like we spent too much time apart, you know, and then came together just to make it. But it was you know, I mean, I think that it came out really well. So
I argue that it's, even though this Toileter may be my favorite and there's a nostalgia factor in that, I think the New Dark Ages may be the best Gwar record yet. I know. Have you heard that one before?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the production is definitely the best ever.
Well, the production is not going to be is you know, I mean, it's never going to go back to what it was. Like,
yeah, I mean,
you know,
listen to Hello, listen to that. Like,
right,
oh my
yeah.
God.
Right. I mean, I know it's.
I mean, that's an extreme example, but
Kramer is making a living as a mastering engineer now. Which
is that what he's doing?
Yeah.
Is he still in New York? I've never come across him.
No, he's down here in Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course. You know, he's Kramer. So, but he's down here.
I never got to see King Missile either.
Yeah. He's a cool guy, but he was not who I would pick to master a record.
Or make a record after hearing that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he had his qualities, but
yeah,
making a Gwar record wasn't
right. Well, I mean, you know, there was there were a couple of things going on with that. Like,
we love it for what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And he was very much just to, like, you know, throw the mics up, don't spend any time. You know, I mean, like, I was playing through like a flip, just equipment that I would never play, you know, like an old flip top.
Well, I guess let's talk about it while we're on the subject. Let's talk about Hello. Yeah. Do you think the band was way better than the record presented the band to be? Because that's what I've heard from other people who were around at the time. It was just like, they were actually a great band. What the hell happened?
I do think that, you know, and I didn't pay attention. You know, I mean, I was young.
Yeah, you were a teenager when you made this, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
so
I was 18. So, you know, I was, and when we wrote it, I was younger
right.
than that. But it was, I didn't really know what to expect or or what to, you know, what it should be sounding like. I knew what the records I liked sounded like, and it didn't sound anything like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Kramer
Well,
just like, he's
at
not
the
exactly.
time, what records would you say you would want to sound like in
I mean, I
1988?
liked, you know, at the time, I think probably my favorite band was, uh, I mean, so Gwar has always been more from the kind of SST, almost hippie side of punk, right? Like,
Sure, yeah.
especially early on, and you know, so I mean, like
But
for
tight like
me,
the Descendants.
yeah, my favorite band at the time was the Bad Brains, probably.
Mm,
You know, and Minor Threat and stuff like that. I mean, I was
sure.
in hardcore bands, and
We're gonna
uh,
trust me, we're gonna talk about that.
and you know, so I was doing that, and so, uh, but Kramer, you know, he didn't. The big problem on that record is just the guitar sounds are really, really not put together very well, and he didn't really know what he was doing mixing. You know, like it wasn't. I mean, he just would sort of like put the levels up. He didn't spend any time on anything. Um, you know, and I mean, I also liked bands like Mission of Burma or you know, I mean, punk stuff, but
Mhm.
American stuff.
I mean, the Bad Brains had some great oh my god. The SST cassette or whatever, the Roar cassette
They,
sounds pretty terrible, but oh my god, the performance is unreal.
I really wish that we had done that record in DC.
Who would you want to produce it in DC?
Don, the guy who did a lot of that, like, you know, the sort of the stuff that's on the Black Spot or Black Dots
Like,
records.
mhm.
You know, and he did a lot of the Minor Threat stuff. I mean, that's Don Zientara, I think is his name. That's where we should have gone for that.
Mhm.
But you know, I mean, at the time we were, I remember I didn't even listen to Vulcan Death Grip, but that was the band that Ann Magnuson was in, and Gwar kind of like was on the really, like, we played for people that were, you know, art students and people that liked art, and Gwar was sort of an art music
Mhm.
band in a way that was playing punk. You know, and so that wasn't really part of Kramer's equation, was like making these things sound heavy, right? Like he
Mhm.
didn't, and that's really the aesthetic that's missing from it, is that there's absolutely no heavy on that record. The heavy just comes out of the, you know, I mean, people love it. I mean, people, a lot of people, that's their favorite Gwar record, and it
Sure.
does
Yeah.
have it has a rawness that, you know,
Oh,
you're
it's
not,
definitely raw.
yeah, yeah. But you know, I mean, it
I mean,
definitely,
the songs are great, you know. And I guess my next question would be, I know you've kind of been asked this before, but A, do you have the master recordings of Hello somewhere? And is it even worth trying to remix like you
it's
did the
not worth
Scum
trying to
Dogs?
remix it because the sounds aren't there, right? It's like, you know, like with Scum Dogs,
The recording was there.
yeah,
Yeah.
the sound, you know, we recorded that at a, it was a studio in Richmond, Virginia, that sort of just so happened to be, there used to be a lot of, like, all over the country, any place that was a radio market, a lot of times they would have label studios, right? Like, so, and this had been an old label, like a, like the big labels would own or part own these kind of recording studios that were or have some interest in recording studios that were in around the country, and they would put bands, you know, from Richmond, like Climax had recorded there. You know, Pat Benatar, maybe, like, you know, Robin Thompson, like all these sort of like weird Single Bullet Theory. That was one, just sort of big bands from Richmond.
Pat Benatar's from Richmond?
Huh?
Pat Benatar's from Richmond?
Yeah, well, she lived there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so is Amy Mann from Till Tuesday. And,
oh, wow.
So is oh yeah, well, there's also a lot of soul musicians from Richmond, a lot of gospel music from Richmond. So this was an RCA label studio, or it had been, and they had recorded a bunch of, like, the guy who ran it. I mean, they were pros, man. I mean, they were old school pros that came up doing music and not ad work, you know. So that's a different kind of ball game than what you get with a lot of studios now, where all anybody does is ads. But they had transitioned to doing a lot of ad work, and they went ahead and I just feel like they did a great job, the engineers on that record.
Yeah, no, it's engineered great, Scumdogs. I mean,
Yeah,
so that's the classic sound, even if it wasn't what you were happy with at the time.
Well,
Worlds
no,
above hello.
Yeah, we were happy with it. I mean, what
Okay.
happened to it was when it got mixed, right? We sort of went from these very capable old school engineers who had done a shit ton of gospel and soul music in Richmond to these guys that were, you know, LA dudes that were snorting a bunch of cocaine, right? And couldn't hear any high end, right? So they mixed it like shit, and I was the only one there. It was my job.
And you were what, 19 or 20 at the time?
Yeah, I was real young, and I didn't have you know, I remember, like, them bringing in they called them carts back then, like, you know, which were, you know, and I just remembered that they were like, we're going to put this snare drum from David Bowie's Let's Dance. We're going to put this on this song. And I remember saying,
tell me you used some David Bowie on Scumdogs. Something.
Yeah, there's
really?
He mixed in a cart of that, which was really kind of like an old school, really weird sample machine. That they use that. So, you know, but
what song is that on?
I don't remember. I mean,
oh man,
I have no idea. It probably, I would be willing to bet that it was Salamanizer, but you know, I mean, Salamanizer, I remember agonizing over, because, like, I hated, you know, really all the guy had to do is just fucking take the compression and the reverb off of the guitars, and it instantly sounded better, right? Like, the record instantly.
There was a lot of reverb around that time.
Yeah. I mean, and you know,
especially in metal,
right? And everything was EQ'd like shit, you know. I mean, but the basic sounds that he had that were on the record were good ones, you know. But the guitars maybe not as much as everything else. Like, the drums and the bass sounded good, and that's why he cranked the bass.
Yeah, because you had a DI on the bass too, right? That's why you could kind of revive it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think if you listen to that, he's not using that DI very much at all. It's almost all.
Yeah, it does have your sound. You have a sound.
It was an Ampeg SVT that had been modded, belonged to Chip Jones from Honor Roll, who was a Richmond punk band. And I used that record, that SST on like 3 or 4 records. And
that's the sound. That's the sound I'm always after.
Yeah, it had it was a good, it had like a master volume installed on the back.
Oh wow.
So you could get a little bit more
so how you got that fuzz?
Yeah. And the whole recording chain was just, you know, at the time, like on Scumdogs, that's actually a 72 Fender Jazz that I'm playing on that record. It's not the Steinberger.
No, really? Is it before you started using the Steinberger?
Yeah.
Or is it Berger? Did I pronounce it wrong?
Steinberger, yeah, it's
Steinberger. I
yeah,
always said Steinberger. I'm saying it wrong my whole life.
it's all right. I called
You
the
learned
bass
something new here on the GWARPod.
I called it an XM2 for my whole life, and then I discovered it was an XM3. So I was
Oh. Well, I have okay. If we're talking about Scumdogs, tell me about working with Al Jorgensen. Like, what? How did that happen? Was he? I heard he was supposed to produce the whole record at some point. And he couldn't
Mm,
afford it, or is there any
no,
truth to that?
no.
Like, what's the story behind that? Because that's fascinating and probably the first Gwar song I ever heard.
Well, I don't remember how. I know that Al came to a couple of shows, and said he wanted to do stuff, um, and he kind of let it be known that he wanted to work with us, and we knew him through Biafra, and we also knew him through I don't know. I mean, I can't even remember. I think mainly the connection was through Biafra,
And
and he let it be known that he'd like to do a mix, and so
was it recorded at the same time as the rest of the album? He just mixed it.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I had to take the big 2-inch tapes. I remember I had 8 of those 2-inch tapes in a big duffel bag. And I took them to Chicago Tracks. And he basically sat there and listened to everything and said, all right, I want to do this song. I want to do these. He actually did 2. He did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did Horror of Yig, and then he did a mix of Black and Huge, I think.
Did that ever end up anywhere?
No.
Why not? Is it still out there somewhere?
Yeah, it is.
Was it bad or?
No, it was fine. I mean, we could have used either one of those. I think that it's just that we had already recorded Horror of Yig and Black and Huge as a. I mean, there's a few recordings of those songs.
Yeah.
There's one that we did at the studio where the Minutemen recorded Double Nickels on the Dime, and Husker Du recorded.
Yeah, because one came out as like a bonus track on Hello or something later on. It was like you had a music video for Black and Huge.
Yeah.
And then then there was the demo you did for Scumdogs before. And I think you did a Horror of Yig version on that one.
Yeah, and those were recorded with Stephen Egerton from All.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just those 2 songs, or which versions of those songs?
Well, they were recorded originally for a single that was supposed to come out on Sub Pop, and the single didn't come out on Sub Pop, and I can't remember why. But I remember that we recorded it at Radio Tokyo, which is where they recorded Zen Arcade and Double Nickels on the Dime.
Wow.
And
so there is a Descendants connection here.
Yeah, definitely. And Stephen, I mean, I still talk to him. I'm still, he's friends on Facebook or whatever, but
I'd love to hear Gwar record at the Blasting Room.
Yeah, I mean, it turned out really well. I mean, I remember really liking what Stephen did with our music.
That Horror of Yig version, it's on the cassette that came with the Scumdogs reissue?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
And then we did what all did we do? Just trying to think. Like, yeah, there was this sort of time period where we were trying to settle down and figure things out, and between Hello and Scumdogs coming out. Mm-hmm. So we did a number of weird sort of recording sessions, but with Al, he wanted to do these songs. We went, it was him and his partner. It was Hypoluxa.
Right. I forget his name too, his real name.
Yeah, well, no, I know his name. It's Paul Barker.
Oh yeah, Paul Barker. Right.
Yeah, and and that was really cool. I mean, and he was really great. I met Bill Riflin while I was there. Who wound up playing drums for REM. And
is this how you fell into Pigface?
Yeah,
there's like a Pigface story here.
Yeah.
Did you actually play with them, or you just showed up? when you were part of the band?
I played with them a couple times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But they had, I mean, it was weird because we stole, like, you really can't do that, right? Like, you're not supposed to do, like, just lift a massive long segment of Marlon Brando talking.
Yeah, I always kind of wondered about that, but I didn't want to get you in any trouble.
I mean, that record.
I was wondering, was that before the sample laws were in
Yep,
place? Okay,
that's
that's
exactly
why,
right.
right? And so does that right transfer to like re-releases, or should I not ask that question?
I think it does. I mean, you could make an argument that, like, that record became a kind of cultural document in the same way that, they're not going to make them remix Paul's Boutique, or
I was gonna say I'm waiting for the Paul's Boutique reissue now.
no, they're not going to do that. So, I mean,
That's a
because
lot of samples in that one.
Yes, right. It's pretty much, well, there'll never be another record like that.
No.
There'll never be another song like America Must Be Destroyed that's new, right? Like, you'll never hear that again.
I was gonna get there. Yeah, I mean,
and
it's one of my favorites, and I think it's so impactful. And I found out about the Lost Poets because of it.
Yeah, and it'll never, that age is not coming back. But
yeah, I don't know what the Kubrick estate would charge you now.
But
Too much.
Right. It was cool though. I mean, everything. I loved it, and we didn't ever get sued for anything. We actually paid the Last Poets though. We paid them a lot of money.
Well, that's good. I mean,
yeah, and we didn't pay Brando.
Yeah.
but that was Al's idea. He was like, let's put this on there. I still can't believe that fucking chanter is out of tune every time I listen to it. See, that's what they always say, like, if you want to lose, yeah,
mm-hmm.
They say if you want to lose your religion, you should become a preacher, right? And the same thing is true for music, right? If you want to lose your ability to really enjoy it, that you have to start playing it and paying really careful attention to it, and then something like the chanter being out of tune on Horror of Yig becomes practically fucking unbearable to listen to for me. But other people don't even notice.
I mean, I figured it's all kind of part of the effect of it being kind of weird.
Yeah.
I just always accepted it that way, so I never thought about it really.
Right.
It's like unsettling, but like you could argue that was on purpose.
Yeah, you could.
Right.
You'd be lying, but
I wouldn't know the difference.
But I think it has a quality that I like. You're right. Or that some people like and I don't like.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoy.
I like the rest of the song better.
Oh yeah. Me too. It's one of my favorite Gwar songs.
Me too. Yeah.
Without doubt. Yeah. So
I'm willing to bet we have a similar taste in Gwar songs. We'll find out later. But America Must Be Destroyed is one of them, and that's one of them too. Horror of Yig.
Yeah.
Let me circle back to Hello for 1 second, because I want to ask, if it's not worth remixing, would you ever consider doing like a Scumdogs Live type re-recording of it? Because those songs have developed so much since Brad entered the band, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something we have talked about doing. I mean, it's something I can see happening at some point in the future,
I mean, Captain Crunch, like War Toy, the way you play these songs now, it's just like unreal compared to the originals.
Captain Crunch is
another one of my favorites. Well,
it's
On the Road Behind, like the 92 like live era version is like incredible.
It is. That is Gwar at it in a lot of ways at its musical peak for that particular group of musicians, right? At least, I mean, is like, and even the live show that was the recorded source of that.
The Slave Revolt tour.
That was the best shit. And I do think that if people could see Gwar,
you're taking the words out of my mouth. I mean,
Yeah,
I know
they lose their fucking
I
minds.
wasn't old enough to see it live, but I've seen recordings of it, and I've heard. Actually, I don't know how you feel about bootlegs from the era being out there, but there is actually a recording of that show from Canada that the recording came from on
Mhm.
video.
Yep.
But there's no encore. Big disappointment.
Yeah. Those were really, really good shows though. I mean, and
I
it's
think
just
that set list was flawless.
right. And you had a full complement, I mean, you had everybody was on that tour, Hunter was on it, Chuck was on it, Don was on it,
Scott Crawl
Scott Crawl was on it, Mike Bonner was on it,
was
Dave
Muscle
Muscle
there.
was on
Yeah,
it.
wow. Yeah, that's the
Yeah. So like that's Gwar. To me, when I think of Gwar, the classic Gwar, like,
that's it right there.
that's it.
I mean, well, for me, I think I'm piggybacking off of your idea here, but the 92 touring Gwar transitioning into the 93 recording This Toilet Earth Gwar, that's my era right there. Like nothing, that's Gwar, I think, at its creative peak, and just, I don't know, there was something so magical in that era. That's what I think. I mean, I love new Gwar, I love all the Gwars, but there was
It's
something so original about that era. And like,
yeah.
I don't know, is there anything that you can tell me about why that is? Like, why do you think that captured such a magic? And do people agree with, because I don't know, a lot of people like a lot of different eras of Gwar, and
Yeah, and
that's
it's
like,
always it's surprising to me, right? Like, I mean, to
yeah,
me, that is the reason for it, I think, is that you had a group of musicians that were very young, but that who were really trying hard. I mean, Gwar had and there was a we were just pushing ourselves, and nobody in the band, like, it was a time when, like, Gwar did not subscribe to the dictates of genre at all, like, at all.
yes.
And and that, chasing genre.
And I feel like This Toilet Earth is its own genre. Like, that's what I love so much about it, is it doesn't sound like any other record I've ever heard stylistically.
No, it's really fucking original.
Not even if within Gwar.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, that record was there were a lot of that was like frustration too. I mean, I was very tired of
I
playing.
know that was like a tough period of the band as well, but I'm hoping like the creation of those songs weren't as I don't know. Tell me there was some joy in there.
Of course, I mean that you can hear that. I mean that you can't. I mean, but I think that like it was a when we were making that record, it was a time when like I was playing bass guitar fucking like 6 hours a day. Dirks was playing, like we were just playing a lot. And
together, or
well, I mean, I had Kepone, and
right.
Dirks had a band that was actually
Kazonam.
well, no, I think
Maybe
at
that
the
was
time
after.
he was in Dent,
Oh, okay.
which was another band, and then he had, but yeah, I mean, him and Brad had Cousin right around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, everybody, yeah, we were all playing and really just sort of pushing ourselves, and nobody really listened to or understood metal, like our sort of exposure
Right,
to it.
that's kind of what I loved about Gwar too, because I mean, I always understand it, and I know you say this is they're a punk band pretending to be a metal band, and there's something just, I don't know, when Gwar became a metal band, I still love it, but it lost a little bit of that quality to me.
I think it did. I think that when and it isn't so much the genre, or not the genre, but like I guess you would call heavy metal a genre, but it's more like I don't know, just sort of chasing that and conforming to it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because and the sad thing is that eclecticism is not rewarded, right, in music,
Right. Right.
or in art, period. I mean, like everybody says they want, you want something original. Well, no, you don't. I mean, people don't want fucking original things. They want to hear, that's why they watch Law and Order, and it's the same fucking show again and again and again, and it's reassuring.
Comfort
And
food. Yeah.
there's a way that, I mean, listen, AC/DC is probably the most flagrant example of writing the same record for 50 years, but like,
And you covered one of them.
well, yeah, well, because it's fucking great. I mean, what they do is amazing, and there's no reason for them to change at all.
Right. Yeah.
A band like the Scorpions is kind of the same way. There's I actually really like Metallica on this last record. Fuck, man.
Which
I
one?
heard
Death
some other-
Magnetic or the brand new one?
No, the brand new one. It's like, wow, that is, they're
Wait,
stretching.
did it come out? Did it come out like this week? Like brand new? Because I know they have like an album coming out like right away.
I don't know. All I know is I heard a Metallica song today that I liked. And I was
Okay,
like,
it must be the new one then. I think it's just the single right now.
Okay, yeah, it is. It's a single.
Okay.
You're right.
I haven't heard it yet.
It's good, and I mean, or to me, it's good. One thing I like about it is that it's so fucking long. Like,
well, they used to have really long songs.
Yeah, and I mean, the idea of pushing things to be 7 minutes long, a band like that can get away with it, and almost nobody else can, right? It's at least not if you're trying to be on the radio, right? But they've gotten to the point where they don't need to worry about that.
Right.
So they can make the songs as long as they want. But yeah, I mean, the sort of Gwar was definitely like, just, there's more Minutemen than Metallica on this Toilet Earth. I can say that with confidence.
Interesting.
There's more. Yeah, there's more like American punk. Detroit's and and nobody was doing that shit, man. I mean, that the reason it sounds like nothing else is because nobody was doing it. Nobody that played metal was doing
and
it.
it was good. It wasn't just different and weird. It was actually different and good.
But
I mean, you got some fucking like save the lyrics maybe, but some of these songs are fucking hits. Jack the World, incredible. I like a good pop song, and that's a really good pop song.
I always wrote pop songs. I mean, that was
Crackdown, another one of my favorites.
Yeah,
that was the version before this one, even more particularly.
Yeah, the demo.
I'm so glad you brought that back on one of those latest tours. It's, and
they were all written. It's funny because like they're all, a lot of times they're written in threes.
Oh yeah, what was the 3 with Crackdown?
Crackdown, Bad Men, and Jack the World.
Oh wow,
the 3.
Okay, so I have a question. I know you did some I don't know the full story about the Canadian version of America Must Be Destroyed was censored, so you had to throw on some of those songs. Were those from a different recording session, and was there more songs recorded that didn't make it on the Canadian America Must Be Destroyed? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It was Bad Men, I think a third version of Crackdown, or maybe a different mix of it.
Yeah, well, there's I don't remember
the Canada thing.
Yeah, right. I don't remember the particulars, but
those weren't recorded with the rest of America Must Be Destroyed, right? Those were separate recordings.
Well, isn't those records are on this toilet? Those songs were on this Toilet Earth.
Yeah.
Right.
Also.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they're on America Must Be Destroyed?
The Canadian version.
Okay. Yeah. That must be
because they took off some of the other songs they were censoring the album.
Right. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. So yeah, they just sort of put songs that we had recorded thinking that we were doing singles, right? Like we were like just recording other stuff and demos for really demos for this Toilet Earth,
Oh wow. So tell me, is there more demos that from that those sessions that we've never heard? Because I love like that era, like that Crackdown, and I'm guessing some of those became like the songs on the Road Behind single,
Yeah,
Crackdown.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I don't think that. I think that was the set, right? It was like, right after that, then we started getting heavier. But I was writing really sort of poppy stuff at that time.
Those are my favorite songs.
Yeah, well,
I'm gonna get to everyone's comments. I see them all rolling in. Don't worry, we'll get there. Cool. Yeah, I don't know if there's any more of that stuff. Like, I would buy that. I have a very weird, specific question. So I was listening to one of my favorite songs right before we started this, Sonder Commando. First of all, like, what a weird, cool song. I'm glad you brought that one back. No, you brought back Issue of Tissue, right? Bring
yeah,
back Sonder Commando.
yeah, and that's another set of three there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Sonder Commando and Issue of Tissue, and
I see the connection there. Yeah, what's the
yeah.
third one?
And I can't remember. I mean,
Huh.
I do remember those two. It might have actually been America Must Be Destroyed.
Oh, wow.
And it
That
sort of
totally makes
spanned,
sense.
because it spanned records, like
Wow. This is
um
insight we've never heard before.
yeah, so those were written early on in the process of writing writing for that record. And then I'm trying to think of another set of three. Well, Pepperoni, Pocket Pool, and shit.
Let's see. Slap You Around.
Yeah, that was
Because
Dave.
those are like the kind of wacky ones,
Yeah,
right?
but the Slap You Around was written by
No.
by Dave and Jim Thompson.
Oh, so that's even older, right?
Yeah,
Or yeah,
Slap
okay.
You Around had been around for a while.
Pepperoni.
And then Peter Lee turned it into a Georgia Satellite song. You're fucking hilarious.
Why was it different originally? I mean, it probably just sounded like a Death Biggie song, right?
Anything he touches turns into
Yeah.
like a friggin' rock and roll extravaganza. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, Pocket Pool and Pepperoni are weird tunes, man.
Yeah. But they're dark. They're kind of dark, so it kind of fits like the album in some, again, like disturbing way, right?
Pepperoni
There's definitely like a vibe to this record, and it's kind of dark.
one of my favorite lyrics ever on that. White boy funk ain't got no soul. White boy pussy ain't got no hole. Like, just
That's a super weird song.
I love that line.
Yeah. I wonder what the third song was. Oh, my very specific question though about Sonder Commando was, who's talking in the beginning of that and end of that song, and what the hell are they saying?
I don't
Do
know.
you
I'd
have
to
any
listen to it.
idea?
I haven't listened to it in a
That's
long time.
funny.
We're gonna bring it back.
Tell me. Yes, I heard well, when I went to the screening of the documentary in Brooklyn, I think someone kind of leaked that you own that one, so maybe you're gonna see it again.
Yeah, Sonder
Do
Commando.
tell, please.
Yeah, we're gonna bring it back. I mean, it really fits with a song like Starving Gods really well. Like,
Oh, you're gonna bring back the song.
what?
I thought you meant the record.
I'm talking about Sonder Commando.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about something else. Yes, please go on about Sonder Commando.
Well, that's all. But what did you think
Okay.
I was bringing back?
The whole record, like a re-release, perhaps?
Oh, of Toilet Earth?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so the deal with these re-releases is that right now, until the band starts, sort of turns the corner and starts really, like the label actually starts
Pit Records.
starts having some money to work with. which it's doing good now. It's a successful venture, but the thing is that we have to buy those records from Metal Blade.
Right. Oh, okay.
So right
Because I
now
know Scumdogs you owned, and that was a licensing deal.
we own Hello, we own Scumdogs,
And
we own
Toilet Earth isn't one of those.
no
Okay.
those that sort of that time period right there in the middle, and neither is America Must Be Destroyed. You know, but
Well,
then
that one already sounds pretty crisp. This Toilet
Yeah.
Earth, I could see at least a really good remaster.
Toilet Earth could use a good remaster, and you know, I mean, it was mixed by a dub reggae engineer.
Interesting. Would
yeah,
you
so,
remix that one? Do you think? I mean, I would love that too, but at least a remaster.
I think it could be remixed and made better.
Nice.
Because it you know, and I would want Ronan to do that, because
Yes, Ronan should just do everything at this point. I
Yeah.
trust him. I trust what he's done so far, at least with the
He has- he-
reconstructions and the new album. So
he's done a great job
yeah,
for
yeah.
the band. There's no question about that. And he knows exactly, you know, to me it's just cool that like he was there in the dairy, and you know, he's been around like from the very beginning. with
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've heard that. Okay, let's go way back to about the dairy. Well, maybe before the dairy. So I have a very important question for you, Michael Bishop. When are we going to hear the Guilty tape? Now we're going to talk about the Guilty. Wait, first, did you
well,
have any bands before the Guilty? What was your first
Um,
band ever?
The Guilty was my first band ever.
That's kind of what I thought. Yeah. Okay, we
Yeah,
can show the slide.
yeah, and you know that although Laserbeam was a band after the Guilty.
Was that you as well?
Yeah, that was me and some guys from this band called Geek Maggot Bingo that were.
Oh yes, I see them on the Gwar family tree.
Yeah, and Laserbeam was fun. It was goofy, and I also had a band called Plaid Joke. Plaid Joke may have actually been sort of musically one of the best bands that I was in during that time.
What kind of music was it?
It was really sort of like, you know, angsty SST type shit, you know, really sort of angular. It's like it sounds like Gang of Four, but the guys in the band don't know who Gang of Four is. You know, it's like that.
Okay.
Or Wire or something like that. You know, it's just sort of because like you had a really good bass player, a really good drummer playing together, right? I mean, not that I'm a really good bass player.
Yeah, you are, dude. You're a really good bass player. You're my favorite bass player ever.
You had good players. I didn't mean to sound like an asshole. You had good.
Okay, I will. You know, give it to me. I'll prop you up.
Okay, you had good players playing together in the rhythm section, and then you had like, you know, and I was better then. I mean, I was younger and I played more, but it was. And then you had the guitar player couldn't really play, right? But it was,
so he was kind of a noisy.
Yeah, but it was awesome. Like
Right,
what he
right.
did was great, you know. So it just had that almost like a Germs feel to it. Like it was really sort of accidentally good.
Yeah, I mean Don Balls is a solid drummer.
Yeah, he was
45 Grave, man.
Yeah, and so, but the Guilty, it was a hardcore band, but it was really more of a punk band. Oh my God.
I'm going to embarrass you a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see this stuff I dug up on Facebook. Look at that guy. Who is that guy?
Yeah.
What are you, like 15 here?
Yeah, 16 maybe.
So tell me about the Guilty. And are we ever going to hear the Guilty? Did you ever get that tape transferred?
Well, see, the tape that you showed an image of, yes, I've gotten it transferred. I can't stand it. It's terrible. And it's not that it's terrible in like a good way. It's like,
right.
It was
I get it.
Recorded by Adam Green, and he did a really, really bad job of it. And there is a
Not the
recording.
Holliston Adam Green, the other
No.
Adam Green.
Yeah, there is a recording of the Guilty that I wish that I'm trying to find some stuff, and if I can find it, I'll put it out. I mean,
Who's got it? We got the fans here. They're gonna find it for you.
man, like the guy is
Somebody
it was-
knows everybody here.
Yeah,
everybody
it was
knows somebody.
right. It was recorded. A friend of mine named Randy Purdy knew the guy who recorded that because it was way out, like in Eastern Virginia, like in Suffolk, like somewhere between Richmond and the beach. This
Professional recording?
No.
Okay.
It was an 8-track.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah, it was 8-track half-inch.
Semi-professional for a teenage
16-track one.
Yeah.
Is what Hello was on. So
right. So
it's the same thing.
Does it sound better than Hello?
Yes.
Nice. Yes. So what? Wow. How long were you in the Guilty?
Maybe
Let's see,
7.
There's some more pictures.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. I guess look at that shirt.
Yeah. What is
like
that?
A sports bra. I'm playing guitar.
There, you're a little cooler there. Is that the Guilty, right?
Yeah, that's the Guilty.
Mm-hmm.
That's New Horizons downstairs. And then this is later on, the Guilty sort of turned into like a kind of like a, what the way I would describe it was like during this period where you're showing this, and it's got that guitar player over on the left-hand side of the screen. His name was Chris Perry. It got this sound that was really sort of because you see the guy with the mustache there, he was really just kind of into Judas Priest and Dokken.
That's
and
cool
shit
too.
like that. Yeah, but then we made him listen to the Sex Pistols and the UK subs, but like it was really controlled. It's like the only sort of music that wasn't metal that he listened to was stuff that we gave him. And you can see that Chris has a Hoodoo Guru shirt on there. So he's like more of a kind of alternative guy. And during this time period, the band wound up sounding sort of like a mix between Iron Maiden and Husker Du. It was like, a lot of these sort of like just that sort of like, distorted arpeggios and harmony guitars. So it's very interesting.
Was it good?
Well,
Sometimes.
I think it was really good. This is from that time period too. And, so
you look cool here.
Yeah, I had figured it out a little bit by that.
Cigarette in the mouth.
Right. And I've got a Voivod and a GBH thing on the guitar, but that was I mean, was it good? The song what the fuck is it? Cardinal Sin, a short history of the
the original Cardinal Sin theme. I knew it has that first.
That's a Guilty song.
Oh shit. That's another one of my favorites.
And so is I
was gonna lead into, I know there's some Hello songs that came from the Guilty, right?
World of Filth and Bohemian Alley North.
All the hardcore stuff, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, same different lyrics, did Dave rewrite them?
The lyrics aren't there at all. Like
well, yeah, that's true. Ollie North is just a mess.
Yeah. So the songs never had words. Like they were just, like, I mean, I didn't write melodies. It's a hardcore band. You don't like harmonize a melody like like you do when you're writing regular songs. Like you just sort of write a chord progression and then holler over it. So I hadn't gotten around to the hollering part yet.
Right. Let's find those tapes, man. Pit Records can put it out. Maybe Ronan can work some magic.
Yeah, I'm hoping that would be
great.
Look
at this show, man. Look at how many of these bands became Gwar. Guilty, Alternatives, Unseen Force. Armpit? Wasn't someone in Armpit?
Brockie, yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
That's like
Armpit
4
was
bands here that became maybe more.
Armpit was very much a part of
Who was in that one? I'm gonna get my family tree out. Oh, that's Death Piggy. If we're gonna get nerdy, Michael, I don't know if you know about this show, but we go deep. Nope. I have more somewhere else. Anyways,
go ahead.
I'll find it.
Yeah, that was a big Gwar. I don't know who Flem was.
Who's
Oh shit, that was Rock Against the Nowhere. That was God knows. Oh, Flem's from DC.
Oh, who is Absence of Malice? Because I see you've played with them a bunch of times. And look at this flyer over here from LA. Also, No Effects.
Yeah.
So Guilty was playing with No Effects back then. Like No Effects was opening for you.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Yeah, we played with them a couple times back then.
Where are we? Where's Armpit? Armpit. Chris Bopst and Jim Thompson and Dave Brockie. So Dave played that show. Was he in that?
And then all of these other guys are
Greg Ottinger, yeah.
Greg Ottinger. I mean those three, Thompson, Bopst, and Ottinger, were the alternatives.
Right. Yeah.
But
what did this band sound like?
Fucking horrible. Like it sounded like, because the other two guys there, Huey Butler
and Tim.
So Tim Herman was actually Sluggo P. Martini.
Oh yeah, I knew I heard that name from somewhere.
So this is just, and then Huey Butler.
He's the only one in the band that didn't make it to Gwar, huh?
Yeah. But he was a big time I don't know what you'd call a patron of Gwar.
Okay.
And
he's the original Bohab.
No. But he was yeah, Huey was a cool guy, but he had his big claim to fame. He was the singer for this band, and he was able to make this horrible, unbelievably loud scream that was just like out of control. And so that was crazy.
So did the Guilty play with Death Piggy?
Yes.
And is this from one of those shows? I found this picture. Apparently it's you watching Death Piggy, which is just incredible. Look at this history right here.
Yeah, you've got Spoon over there.
Really?
If Andrew Riley is
the punk version, the punk band Spoon?
No. The girl with the white turtleneck on was named Spoon.
Oh.
Then Hillary, right beside her. That's Scott Wolf in the Giants hat there. And then
really? Producer Scott Wolf?
Scott Wolf.
Producer. I've never seen a picture of him before.
Yeah, well, there's his back.
Yeah.
And then you got
where is this?
This is at a place that was called it started out being called Sunny Bucks, and then it got called the Hole in the Wall. So this was probably when it was the Hole in the Wall. And I'm watching Brockie fuck my bass up.
Oh shit, he's playing your bass.
He's playing the steak bass, yeah. And he's getting ready to.
Oh, this is like post Gwar starting Death Piggy playing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So it was like a reunion show type of deal?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I thought it was like an early days. But what do you remember about Death Piggy in the early days? Were you a fan?
Yeah, I was. I mean, it was just like a totally different energy that's really hard to describe. Like, just chaos. And it wasn't just down to Brockie. I mean, they were all fucking bananas. I mean, Russ doing the Mr. Magico thing.
Oh, that was at the Gwar show.
Well, yeah, but it was a Death Piggy. It was very much a Death Piggy ethos, right? Like because Death Piggy they do stuff like they bring out what Death Piggy was like was when Gwar started, and we would always have this. There was, I actually wrote about this one time.
really?
Yeah, I wrote about it. It was the times that Gwar existed outside of the frame of a rock band, right? So you would have and Brockie was really good at inspiring these moments, and this is where Gwar is unlike any other band that I really know of, or you know, except maybe the Residents or something like that, right? Like,
Right.
you know, so the, you know, because even the Buttholes, it's like it's framed as a rock show, right? It's but
Well, the
there are
Residence is like a theatrical experience.
yeah, and so and Gwar was really, especially early on, we were trying for that, and we had like these limited spaces, so you didn't have the same kind of sort of expectation of and also we were just doing shows in Richmond, and then we would do shows a little further in afield, and we still found a way, like even on the first couple of tours, we were still doing this kind of thing, and we still do it kind of, but we've dropped a lot of it, which is where you would have these sort of vignettes that would start out a show, and the vignette
like the
was
Anton Reemcom.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's really just a kind of theatrical performance that is then sort of interrupted and a rock show happens, you know.
Right.
And,
so Mr. Magico was the bridge between Death Piggy and Gwar, right?
yeah, very much. And so was you know,
we just had Russ on the show. We tried to pry him for all the information.
Russ is fucking brilliant, and he was, you know, a big part of Death Piggy, like you know, having Russ's sense of humor. I mean, because he would never break character. And imagine a punk rock show. So like all the morons that are at this fucking thing, watching this guy just do a shitty magician routine and
do you
never
remember what he did? Because I don't think he remembered exactly.
Oh man, it was like, you know, like he would basically, like, he wore the outfit and then he would do like card tricks that just didn't go anywhere, or like, you know, like the rings that you're gonna put them together and like, you know, they're supposed to come apart but they wouldn't, like, you know, nothing would ever work.
Were people like booing him?
Oh man, they're just like throwing shit at him and spitting, and he just like ignored it, you know, and kept going, you know, for like obscene amounts of time, you know, so people would just be dying.
Well, I know, I guess it's a great segue into, I did want to talk to you about the first couple of Gwar shows, because I think you were at least the first 3, right?
Yeah, maybe not the first one.
Well, let me see. I got
I wasn't at the first one because
Gwar March 25th 85 9:30 Club. Oh, that's, I think
I wasn't there.
That was when they played with Suicidal Tendencies.
Right. I wasn't there. I was outside of the PB Kelly's one.
Okay, what about the Going Bananas April 85?
Oh, that was I wasn't there.
Okay, so you saw the PB Kelly's show.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that one's kind of documented.
And I saw all of them after that.
Mm-hmm. So you saw every Gwar show until you joined, basically.
Yep.
That's great. So what do you like? I know you've talked about the first couple shows. They mostly just made feedback, but what else do you remember? And then I want to actually. There's another thing that I love talking about here, but let me start with that.
What are you asking here?
Just your memories of like the first few Gwar shows, beyond them just making feedback and talking about how awesome they are. Is there anything else like the Mr. Magico thing that just kind of like maybe people have missed out on hearing about, or like weird characters that never, you know,
yeah, I mean, you know, so there is a way that like the early Gwar shows were kind of a leftover, sort of some remnants of Death Piggy, right? Where you had, because Death Piggy was really theatrical. And like I said, I mean, like they did a show, for instance, where they just bought like a couch up on stage and and a TV.
And it was like band practice, right?
Yeah. But really it was just them watching TV, you know? And like, you know, so people didn't, I mean, like it was truly fucking avant-garde, man. And like, And then, they had of course, the cat shit pinata. I remember
Yeah,
that
I've
one.
heard that one.
But the funniest one, the one that I remember is they had this guy in the band who was a transvestite named Crazy Jimmy Garthoff, and he was the trombone player for Death Piggy. And I don't think he makes it on those lists. Like he's so
Yeah, I don't think I've heard this name before.
Yeah, so Crazy Jimmy would I mean, what I remember is we played with this band, they played with a band called Black Market Baby in Charlottesville, who were like, tough guys. And Crazy Jimmy had found a lighter that that when you lit it, it would go like the flame, it was broken, so the flame would be like, a foot high, like, whoo. And he takes that thing and he puts it up to the bass strings of the guy from Black Market Baby. And it just so happens that the guy was playing with, like, I have no idea why he had these things. Those nylon black, like tape wound bass strings, right? So as soon as he puts it up, they just go boom, 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 like they all just break, like all four strings. And the guy just throws the bass down and jumps down and starts fighting Crazy Jimmy, And Crazy Jimmy, being a transvestite, he was really good at fighting, right? Like a transvestite in Richmond, Virginia knows how to fucking fight. I can tell you that. And especially one that works the streets, like, so it was a stroke fest.
Man.
So it was just like that kind of atmosphere.
And was this during the show? Oh, this was during Black Market Baby's set. Had Death Piggy played before or after?
It was Death Piggy. Yeah.
Okay.
And Brockie, like, I just remember him stealing, like, it was so like trying to walk to the van and his legs were stiff because his pants were just stuffed full of stolen liquor bottles. Like, I mean, it was a lot of chaos and a lot of fun. And, the same thing really carried over into Gwar, like in early on. It was a very similar sort of atmosphere. And it always felt like a big event to go to the shows. And and you had, those vignettes were a big, important part of it.
Gotcha. Okay, let's break up the conversation a little bit and do some comments. I've been neglecting you guys. We got the Chicken Heads here. Do you know about the Chicken Heads?
The band?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Barrister Orlock is in the house. It's Hunter's steampunk lawyer.
Steampunk lawyer.
Yeah. Let's see. Played the headless basses because the tuners would catch on things, I think. What?
That's true.
Oh, where do you get bass strings for your Steinbergers? Do they still make them?
Yeah, I get them from Labella. That's the company that always manufactured them for Steinberger.
Gotcha.
But I'm not, I mean, there's a company, probably the easiest place to get them would be juststrings.com or maybe something like, I don't know, Status. Sometimes I order them from Status, which is a British company.
Gotcha.
But the problem with buying GHS or any of the, like, Diodario double ball strings, which they sell, but they tend to be very, very light, and that's not like, and that's because the guys that play Steinbergers generally play funk, or they play. Yeah, and so they're dancing around. There's a lot of dancing, and they're
new wave. Maybe they play new wave.
Well, they're playing with their thumb a lot.
Yeah.
So I can't. I have to have medium or medium heavy strings, and it's the only way to get tone out of the. If you play with your fingers, is to sort of beat the shit out of it.
Here's one from my brother. This implies a whole nother set of assumptions, but any chance you would take over bass for the ex-cops? We'll put that one out there. See.
I don't think so. I mean, they've got. They have a good bass player.
Casey.
Well, Casey's a great bass player, but they have
I mean, I know he traditionally didn't play bass in that band, but
no,
I know he can play
and
and sing.
he doesn't now. I think the guy from Darkest Hour is playing bass for him.
Oh, well, that answers a couple of questions.
Yeah, so I mean, but that's fine. I mean, like that I'm really busy, man. I've got a lot of
Sure.
stuff to do with Gwar and a lot of stuff to do with.
It's the obvious Gwar fan assumption that you would fall into that role.
Yeah, I've got another band that I'm playing bass in that people are gonna hear about. But
anything you can announce or tease for us? Not Kepone. Or is that a whole other thing?
I was
going to talk about them later. So.
Yeah, it's another sort of level of Kepone. It is with one of the guys from Kepone.
Okay.
And then another player who's very well known, and so it's sort of Kepone plus in a way. And I'm keeping a lid on who that is, but we're gonna put some stuff out, and that's actually what I'm working on every night. I work on that, and I work on new Gwar stuff.
Is there a difference between writing for each band, or is it kind of like, if they don't like this one, I'll bring it to the other band?
No,
I
can't do that. It's and I've really never done that except in the very early days of, Kepone was just, and this band, they're radically different. They're not, the focus is on
bass wise. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I could see some of those Kepone riffs, vice versa, like between America Must Be Destroyed and Ugly Dance.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. I mean, some of the but it's less the bass that I'm thinking of. It's more
the guitar playing is very, even though he is filled in for Flatus, I believe, right?
He did, yeah.
He definitely has his own style.
Yeah, so it's more and it's just like a different, they're trying to do different things with music, and singing wise and sort of vocally and lyrically, it's got a very different sort of thrust. So
I'll take it. Here's another one. As a professor, how many students know about your alter egos? How did you bring that knowledge into Gwar material?
Wow, a good compound question. To answer the first part, they very often knew. I don't teach anymore, and I'll probably never teach again. But I mean, I may do like lectures and stuff like that. But I feel like, that goes to answering the second question, right? Which is that I think you're able to sort of have a similar effect on people, and it's a much bigger platform to do Gwar, right? To sort of, so but how did it inform, I mean, everything. I mean, I know a lot more about music. I was trained as an ethnomusicologist. I took a lot of I mean, you get a lot of music theory if you're getting a PhD in music, and then you have a lot of, so I mean, the thrust of my writing changed a great deal. My knowledge of forms and, it's funny. I mean, I don't think I picked up a bass the whole fucking time I was in school. But I learned a lot about music, just playing piano and different stuff like that. And then, so it really changed how I think about harmony. And by that, I just mean I don't mean an Iron Maiden solo. I mean the chordal structure of songs. And it definitely changed sort of the way that I think about. I mean, Gwar really, without Gwar always. I've often said that Gwar offers a critique of modernity, right? And I think that that's true, and I think it always has. I'm grateful that I have the education that I have because I'm able to defend this band when people go after it, and they do. And I'm able to speak very clearly about what Gwar is trying to do. And I think that helps us.
People who are like offended by the band.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or who, just also, I mean, a lot of times I do a lot of work in framing it beforehand so that they don't ever get offended, right? Like, Gwar is, and it's not because we're trying not to offend people. It's
Right.
because, if people want to be outraged about Gwar, right? And well, that's fine, but you have to understand like what the band is trying to do, right? The band's not trying to trot on women or to disrespect trans people or to that's just not what this band is about. It's not what it's ever been about. It's always been a band that was about marginalization in a lot of ways, and a band that was to look at Gwar and see it as a statement or sort of a glorification of power is a serious misreading of this band. And from the beginning, it's always been sort of struggling against these sort of symbolic forces that were in our lives. The redneck from hell.
Professors, right?
Yeah, everybody, man. Like art, the whole
authority figures.
Yeah, the whole idea of
religion.
Art. Right. And Gwar valorized the low, and Gwar, I mean, so I guess I'm saying that, one thing that I got out of school was I gained the ability to speak about that stuff with a certain amount of confidence that I think benefits the band.
Well, I guess that leads me into something I did want to bring up at some point. I know you've talked about it before, but it's definitely worth repeating. Going back to that 92 tour and that Road Behind and that whole segment of Have You Seen Me? That was a genuine moment, right? From what I understand.
Are you talking about the skit that happens on that recording?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously part of it is part of the skit, but
it was and it wasn't. I mean, that's what performance is, man. And that's why I love performance. And that's really, what I studied was the ethnography of performance. That's that particular segment or little piece of time.
I mean, it shows some sort of a moral compass.
Yeah, well, it shows it's very much like, a kind of externalization of like what we were thinking about. And Dirk's like, he just walked up on stage and he was serious, right? Yeah, he was. At first he was serious, like, you can't do this. But he very quickly,
Right, but then you joined in and it became a whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to let him sit out there and fucking die. I mean, you have to help your brother.
Well, you left Dave out to die. I guess he could defend himself, right?
Yeah. Brockie's he's but we just, but Dirks is a really good improvisational actor. And he was able to really sort of like pick up that, just he was able to transition it into
the normal script of the show.
And
because it ends with "Have you seen me?" and
yeah. And we still do that. Like, we still give Dirks at points in the show, like it's like, all right, right here we're gonna
ask that. Is there any more of any of that chaos element in the new band and the new tours?
Yeah, man, totally. I mean, we put it back and we do it on purpose, because we want.
Are there any like favorite segments from the past tours that went off the rails like that in any memorable way?
When I got COVID and they started doing Marianne, I thought that was pretty cool.
Dude, I saw the show a couple days after that in New Jersey, and I was so glad that you still did Marianne. But I was glad to see you back.
I also did. Yeah, well, I mean, I told him like, don't change it. You know,
No,
I'm gonna
I
come
was
back
so
with,
I was like the one guy in the back, just like, yes.
yeah.
Dirks has a good voice, man. He doesn't use it enough.
No, yeah, and he's a really great guitar player too.
Oh yeah, I'd like to hear him do more like. I know his version of lead guitars is more of a noisy element than like the technical metal, but I fucking love that about him.
Mm-hmm. He's a great player. I think that I think that Brockie, or I'm just trying to think, like Brockie in that particular moment where that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about it a little bit more, like that Brockie was shocked, and you can kind of hear that. He's like, what? Like, you know, so Dave is sort of serious too.
I believe that was the end of the tour, right? It was
Yeah.
in Canada, so it was probably like you guys were just really fucking off that show.
Yeah, but just, you know, that the ability to sort of like, you know, segue it into, you know, Canada.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good, you know, and yeah, we still try to do that. You know, it's.
Oh yeah, was there any any moments in the last few tours that come to mind in that sort of way?
Yeah, I mean, like, definitely. I'm just trying to think of like I said. I mean, there's the whole Marianne thing when the COVID came in, and you know, just like we had been doing, for instance, the Queen show, right? Like we had, you know, the Queen come out, and then just, you know, one day Scott just gets on his knees and starts blowing me, and it's like, oh my God, this is perfect.
Wait, which show is this? And which Scott?
Scott Bryan, who is also in Ghoul, and he played the. It was when we did. I guess we did a version of it where it was the Queen, and then we did a version of it where it was. You know, we would do the Rocky Horror Picture Show thing.
Oh, right.
And you know, so I mean, there's stuff like that, but you know, as far as dialogue goes, though, that has gotten a lot tighter.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, you know, because it's more. I mean, for one thing, like, we don't have Muscle Man, you know, so like,
right.
Muscle was, you know, we were able to.
I really want to talk to him. If anyone can track him down for me, and if he's willing to. No, he's. Why not?
Because
you
it's
don't have
not,
to answer that if you don't want.
It's just not the kind of thing that he does. Like, you know, he
that's exactly why we want to talk to him.
I'm sure. I mean,
I've got Ben Eubanks coming on the show.
I mean, you might be able to get him.
I just need to talk to him. I mean, again, I'm not like, you know, if he's willing, I would love to.
The way to do it would be to get him to watch it. You know, you're never going to hear anybody in this band say a negative word about Dave Muscle. He was
exactly. I know how much of like a unsung hero he is in Gwar. I want to celebrate that, and I want to like know why, because I don't really know that much about him either. He's definitely not seen. I don't even know if I've ever seen a picture of the dude.
He was hands down the best fabricator, the best sculptor, also the most artistically successful, like in the world of art, sculptor that was ever a part of Gwar. He's probably the only person that in the band who got residences and you know, did things like that as a, you know, sort of using a master's degree in sculpture.
Wow.
And he
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, and you know, he did very large pieces, sort of along like installation pieces along the lines of Andrew Calder. And you know, and now like he everything's gotten very small. Like he does very, very small fabric work. But he's he's a brilliant mind, and you can see it in everything he does. It doesn't matter what it is. He has he's just he's just really good, man. He's so skilled at, and back in the day, you know,
Yeah,
like
and he
Gwar,
built like the stuff on the bus, right? Like he was very
yeah,
aesthetically minded like that. And
yeah. He built the interior of the bus. Him and this guy, Stretch Romano, who is still around sometimes. He's on you see him on the cooking shows a lot.
okay,
On the Food Network. Yeah,
interesting.
he's a restaurateur from Kansas City. But he worked in the sculpture department at VCU, and he was one of Muscle's best friends. But he was, you know, he's done a lot of weird, like, I mean, when we played live, just Muscle's sound effects, and
People really miss that. I mean, I never experienced it live.
yeah, well, we can't, man. We've tried to bring it
I
back.
know it's like another person on the road. Give me a break.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah, you know, and with Muscle it worked because Muscle did all this other shit. So it's like, you know, and plus we had more money and we had more, you know,
You were younger too.
yeah,
Like,
we were younger and we had less
pack everyone on the
concern.
bus together.
Yeah, yeah,
Is it true that he once played a character named Captain Walrus?
yes.
Tell me about Captain Walrus.
Well, I wasn't around when he did that. That was,
Okay,
you know,
those like the first two shows, or
so when they did Ragnarok.
oh, this is like Ragnarok era. I was thinking this
Yeah.
is like early '80s shit.
No, when he did
Okay.
Ragnarok, like, you know, the producer of that record, and the producer, he had gotten Muscle, like pushed Muscle to do
Ron Margula.
Yeah, he pushed.
I don't know much about him.
He's a very he's probably one of the better known producers that we use.
Who has he produced? Well, like who's his top 3?
I mean, Stevie Wonder is one of them.
Oh, what? Okay.
But you know, so he pushed Muscle to do more of a kind of just to do more shit. You know, he liked Muscle's.
There's a lot of keyboards and samples on that record.
Yeah, and so when they did the touring, they wanted to honor that, and so they brought Muscle up on stage, and I think it was also
Really?
towards the end of his touring time as well, and they wanted.
I've never seen him like on stage that I know of.
Yeah, he would play over on one side, and you know, and he was just such a skilled and a talented musician, and I mean, you know, just that's the way he did it. Like that's the way he joined a band and played was, I'm going to learn how to make sound effects and then use those sound effects and
sounds like an instrument.
Yeah, fucking amazing. I mean, what an amazing guy. And
this is why I want to talk to the man. Like nobody's heard from this guy.
Yeah, and that's another thing that makes Gwar unlike other bands, you know. But you know, alas, it also makes Gwar dismissible to the Eddie Trunks of the world, to the you know, in the words
Currently
of Mike,
or back then?
I don't think it's changed that much.
Gwar hasn't won, like, you know, the long game.
No,
we'll get back to that later.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. You know, it's like
I got some questions about the new tour coming up.
Okay,
So
what we got?
no, not now. I'm just saying I'm going to bring that one back for that segment.
Okay.
But here's some more random Tara's here. She wants to know if Blothar's name has any relation to the Old Norse term Blauberger.
Probably. I mean, so like I was just kind of looking for Old Norse terms that sounded cool, right? And one that I found was blot, right? B-L-O-T. But blot, it turns out, had these kind of weird, like some kind of weird sort of like white power shit going on. Like,
yeah, we don't need that.
Yeah, it had been co-opted.
Co-opted.
Co-opted, yeah. And so, the minute I found that out about it, I was like, oh, fuck, I can't do that. Because it was also pronounced like blut, like it was like this really weird word, and I wanted to use that.
It's like an industrial band.
Yeah. And I think it actually was sort of a word that meant something like Bible, right? It meant something like a collection of texts, but I just started to get really into and very interested in these kind of like these modes of expression that Vikings would use, right? Like for instance, and not only Vikings, but just like, I started adding a lot of, like, in a few songs, there will be these sort of expositions at the beginning of a song where you're calling on the gods to help you tell this story, right? And that's something that you see in literature a lot. But I don't know, all that is to say that what all that comes from is just a general sort of appreciation for the poetic abilities of Norse culture. I mean, it was
So
really.
does Blöthar mean anything?
It does not. Like, I just sort of stretched that word out, and it also like sort of sounded like blow fart, right? And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to take this. And it's funny because my baby, the baby, has started saying Bofar. Like she says Bofar. That's Bofar.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and she knows that I'm Blöthar. But if I tell her, like tonight, I was like, well, Daddy's got to be Blöthar. And she goes like, she's like, Mommy. Like she just immediately. No, she gets scared for a second. But so I'm not Blöthar in the house while she's awake.
It's kind of scary. Still a little bit scary.
Yeah.
Can I show the picture of the Blöthar outfit?
Sure.
I mean, how cute is that?
There she is.
Amazing. Oh yeah. Speaking about Ragnarok, Laura wants a knife in your guts. That's her request. That's a good song.
It is.
Let's see.
Shout out to Shiloh.
Any chance at re-releasing Phallus in Wonderland?
Yes, there is a chance. Gwar is working on some stuff that's gonna fucking blow people's minds. I mean,
I
like,
can't wait.
there's new stuff coming up. We're doing film work again, and
Good.
we're trying to make something that is of similar scope, right? So we're working on that, and then as part of that, we're also working on doing some stuff with the older films that we have.
I heard there's some sort of you recovered the footage from Skullhead Face, or some sort of master of that, tape master, some kind of tapes from Skullhead Face.
Yeah, we got some stuff, and we did. Yeah, we got the tapes.
Anything going on with that? Maybe in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like Skullhead Face should
we
be
still don't-
celebrated as a B movie. Even like I always argue, if Gwar didn't exist outside of just being characters in this one B movie, fucking awesome.
We're gonna
That's
need
a cult
to.
classic.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back and get. I mean, the problem with that is that they just like the records, Metal Blade owns those. So we're in the process of, we've actually bought some releases from Metal Blade, and as we keep, we're going to keep going with it, but people have to be patient because the shit costs
Yeah,
money.
sure, of course.
I mean, and you can only spend so much money in a year, right? Like, I mean, and
So
they're not
everyone
cheap.
go to the merch store after this and buy something.
Yeah, it's not cheap. I mean, you're playing, you're buying something that's going to be making money until the end of time. So what do the people charge for that? So.
Let's see. I'll get back to some questions later. Oh my God, there's so many comments. Let's do
Gwar, I saw one in there about Gwar and backing tracks.
Okay, sure. I don't know where it is, but do you want to
Well,
speak
the
to that? I
Evil
mean,
Kitty,
obviously, you guys
Evil
play
Kitty
to
music.
a track.
Yeah, we do not play to backing tracks. We have, and we've been accused of that many, many, many times. As a matter of fact, like it's also funny to me, like we were doing the
Oh, here
on
it
Warp
is.
Tour. The guys from New Year's Day were like asking me about the tracks on the AC/DC song, and I was like, they're not fucking tracks. Like I'm singing the song.
Oh, well, I'm hoping that he means like there is a click track with some additional things, but not the actual instruments that are on stage.
No, he was asking me about the vocals. Like he thought that the vocals.
Oh no, I mean this is my brother asking this question.
Oh, okay.
I can't speak to the other guy on tour.
We do when we play with the backing tracks. First of all, to the other question that he asked a bit ago, yes, we tune down to E flat.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I mean, that you've always done that.
We've always done that, and that's because Kiss did it, and that's because
Is
there's
this
no
since
real,
like Hello Days or
there's no real reason to do it except that metal bands do it. So
right,
we did it.
yeah. I mean, Van Halen did it, right?
Yeah,
So,
Black Sabbath did it.
and that's like one of his favorite bands. So
Right. So, but I
Definitely
mean,
Black
we
Sabbath.
do use we use click tracks, so
Right.
it's sort of audible metronome, and we have to do that because a lot of times we're using lighting cues
Right.
and effects cues that are tied into the rhythm and the tempos of the songs, and that and certainly like one of the ways we tried to replace muscle was by having tracks laid on. Like you can do that if you have Ableton, a show computer that's running
Mhm.
a click track, and then okay, well here's where the bonks come in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Brad's always been open to playing to a track. I mean, he prides himself on it, I think, to an
Well,
extent.
Brad, Brad is
He's a fucking machine, that dude.
he is, and he doesn't. He has. It's really funny because when you play with tracks for many many years, as Brad has done, and you're a drummer, like there's a way that like removing the tracks causes anxiety, right? Like, okay, you're gonna take this away. I've been doing this live on stage for 20 years. But what I thought was really interesting is I had like multi-track recordings of our rehearsals, and you can dump them into Logic, right? And you can look, and Brad's time, like if you import it and you don't like change the tempo, you just leave it as it was, like his time when you look at it in an arc is like plus or minus 5 beats per minute. Like extremely consistent, and that's in improvisation. So he's just like making shit up. It's a microphone hung up in a room of guys that are just playing in a rehearsal space. So
Yeah, dude's awesome.
He's very good,
and it's definitely showcased on the new record, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, just some of, yeah, anyways, I don't need to expound on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think and
I think everybody is.
It is, as
But
I write.
the drums are very prominent in a very good way.
Yeah, and I part of that is me writing songs too, because like
Because you
I
leave
write.
space for them.
Yeah, I write in that way. Like I'm always thinking about drums and trying to bring them, like give him a
Motherfucking
platform.
liar.
Yeah, just trying to give him a platform to rock out.
Speaking of, I guess things you would need tracks for, we want to know about Lizzie Hale and how that came about. And
well, we do use her tracks on the road.
You mean she wasn't there? I feel so lied to.
Lizzie Hale is a it's funny because there are fans of the band that like not many at all, but some who sort of were vocally like, oh man, what are you doing with this, like you guys are better than this. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is a extremely, and I guess they meant that it's commercial, right? Like they're seeing it as somehow a commercial thing to but it's like, I mean, first of all, I don't know what would be wrong with Gwar. This new one thing that New Dark Ages did is that Gwar got its first. We got added to active rock radio in multiple markets across the country, and it was the first time that that's ever happened. It's never fucking happened.
Ratcatcher or
Ratcatcher and then on satellite radio, Berserker mode, yeah. So I mean that's fucking never happened, and that's absurd. I mean, Gwar, like, not to even get an ad on active rock radio, like that's fucking bananas. I mean, sure, like Metallica made their money without, like, they're not busting up the charts. Slayer's not busting up the charts, but they're on fucking active rock radio. And so that was a big, really.
Yeah, let's circle back to is Gwar winning the long game? Finally, things like this are happening. How do you feel about that?
In that way, yeah. So that long game, if you're talking,
I don't feel like you took something away from Gwar to make that happen. I feel like all the ingredients were already there. It's just how you stirred them together on this new record produced that. That's how I feel about it. Well, I feel like this is the spiritual successor to This Toilet Earth. I feel like it's got that same energy, and it's definitely the same core members.
I agree
and
with
especially
that.
with you back playing bass on the record.
Yeah,
that's like what made Gwar to me.
Well, I
hear it in that.
So I'm going to answer all of those questions because they all kind of run together. But like, let's do, talking about Lizzie. Lizzie is amazing, and she's an amazing talent. And I mean, she's the kind of talent that like.
Where's my props? I'm looking for my props. Go ahead.
I mean, she can't, like her voice and her ability to sing.
I got the print.
Is oh man, lovely. But it's really
Jeremy
like
Stafford, awesome.
Yeah, she's he is. But she's just an incredibly skilled singer and a great musician and a great musical mind, like, and a great songwriter. Like her, just, and songwriting is hard. And that brings me back to, like, one thing that might be different about this record, right, is that, like, I think the band is focusing more on songwriting, and it's kind of that simple. But we're focusing on songwriting in a, just being more careful with the songs, just putting them together. And I think that if you do that, then you kind of automatically, it puts you in this, and it's really easy to do that and still sort of like, maintain the same energy or the same sort of style. It's just that you make different decisions when you're arranging the songs, and put them together in a way that makes sense. And, and that's something that, like, I mean, Brockie,
it gets better each listen. Like the first time I listen to a new Gwar record, I'm like in shock. I don't know how to think about it because it's like one of my favorite things. Usually I kind of hate it at first, but just because it's a shock to the system and I don't know how to feel, I listened to that record like several times the week it came out, and every night I had a different song stuck in my head. So
yeah, there's some good ones on it, man. I mean,
really,
like,
yeah.
And
talking about like songwriting, just like the structures of the songs, even just like Berserker mode, and goes into like that solo section in the middle and just all that stuff.
Yeah, it's well.
No, I'm thinking of Motherfucking Liar.
Okay. Yeah, well, that one, Berserker mode too, though.
Berserker mode too, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. Every song on the record is well put together, and there's a.
No, I'm thinking of Berserker mode. Sorry, it's still a little bit new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's so, the other thing is that I, as a writer, am very different than Dave. And like, Dave would expound a lot. Like he had a lot of lyrics, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like the big
Too many for
probably,
even himself.
but the weird thing is how people react to that. Like it's so weird. Like they hear it and they're like, I know something's different. What
Well,
is it?
yeah, duh.
Like it's like, well, I mean, obviously, like there's a different singer, but it's like, yeah, well, it's because Motherfucking Liar is a song that has, about 2 paragraphs worth of lyrics.
Mhm.
And, and that's not something that Five Finger Death Punch does, right? It's something that every fucking rock band does, right? Very few rock bands do what Gwar would do when Dave was singing, right? Which is have 4 pages of lyrics or 5
Yeah.
typed pages.
It was
of
getting
lyrics.
beyond control at the last
Yeah,
couple of
and
records.
so right, and so I mean, I'm interested in hooks. I like melody. I like starting
That's
something.
why I love this record. I mean, Blood of Gods, I liked that too, but I felt like that was the first record of this new lineup kind of becoming comfortable. And this
Mhm.
album's like, I don't know, you've just really brought back that energy of like being creative with it, I think.
Well, the next one's going to be better. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, that's going to be my new favorite Gwar record then. All right, well, let me ask a few questions about the New Dark Ages era while we're on the topic.
Mm-hmm.
I got to ask all the current members this. Is Gwar woke? I don't think so. I'm just devil's advocating some interesting opinions that are out there.
So first of all, I don't have any. I think that most people who talk about something being woke don't really understand what they're talking about. I mean, I don't think that they have that they have a real sense of like of what. I think it's become a term that allows people to dismiss ideas that they don't agree with, or that and more often than not, that they're not really even willing to consider, right? But at the same time, like interestingly enough, the problem is extremism, right? I think politically, Gwar would align itself really. Think about South Park, right? Like that's more where Gwar winds up politically, right? Is that like,
I mean, you've killed every sitting president, plus you've dug up Reagan and killed him again.
Yeah, and so is Gwar woke? No, I mean Gwar, we're working on something right now that really, and we've tried to take on sort of woke. I'm not going to use that term because I fucking hate it. I hate, like, what does it mean? Like its original meaning was it's a very reductive use of that word, like to use it as kind of shorthand for things that you think are fucking stupid, right? It's like the idea of being woke, right, was like the idea of sort of, Black scholars and Black artists trying to sort of capture, remember, wake up, recognize yourself in society and recognize your place and your position in your situation. And so, I mean, it didn't have this sort of negative connotation at all. I mean, it was more about just sort of, I mean, sure, it was social justice, but the people that were woke that was a Black thing. It was in Black culture. And now it's just kind of become sort of shorthand for virtue signaling or all of these sort of ways that look at how, I mean, people do flips in order to be able to dismiss ideas, anything other than fucking address the content of what people are talking about, and the problem is extremism on either side, the sort of, woke culture or just the sort of culture of
Well, how does Gwar like fit into that whole thing? Because obviously Gwar's at its base level offensive on some level, like as an intention. Where does that fit
That's
in with the
another
current
reason why
culture?
I can't imagine people looking at Gwar and saying that it's a woke, right? It's like,
Well, it's funny. Most of the people who seem to have sort of that argument, it also just seem to miss the baby raping more than anything else, right? It's like, are you kidding me? You had one of the best baby raping jokes on this record of all time. So there you go. Are you not entertained?
well, you have to, I mean, one thing is that like Gwar could, I mean, we talked about this earlier, and I said that I had sort of, one thing that I think I got out of school is sort of being able to defend the band,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Being able
this
to,
definitely ties into that.
yeah, and I mean, in my opinion, Gwar, it's a critique, man. It's art, and it doesn't position itself. It doesn't align itself with liberalism or conservatism, right? It tries to point out what's ridiculous in either pole, and the problem is that things have become so politicized, but Gwar hasn't changed really that much.
Yeah,
Like, I
you're
mean,
still
it's
just holding a mirror.
right. But what's changed
That's
is
what's
how,
happening these days, and
yeah,
you're gonna write about it, right?
exactly. It's just
Yeah.
like, I mean, I don't really think even the fucking, like, has the FBI really changed? I mean, are they really that different, or are people just seeing politics everywhere, and maybe they do exist in these places. Maybe it's true that these things are, I mean, it's certainly, and it's weird, like how these polls shift. Like all of a sudden, you've got these like old hippies that are saying, that are sort of that believed that the every evil in the world was spawned by the FBI. Like all of a sudden, they're sort of like, like the FBI of the X-Files, right? Like that sort of deep state conspiracy thing. And it's sort of changed its pants now. It's like, all right, well, it's, these are sort of conservative ideas, looking at this and believing that it's like that the FBI is sort of serving some. I'm just using that as an example because it's out there in culture right now. And it's an example of how I think things kind of stay the same. But they've been like people's mindsets have really changed a lot. I mean, even like, and a classic example is us killing the president. We killed the fucking
That's
president.
consistent in Gwar.
It is. And before we killed Donald Trump, nobody said anything.
Right.
Nobody said a fucking
Well,
word.
I think they had some trouble in Australia, right?
Yeah.
That was
but
before
I mean,
you came back.
right. But that's, what I mean, like, in the United States, when we kill the president specifically, it's like, we've done a lot of
Everyone loves to kill the president, no matter who they are, right? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, it's power, man. But I mean, I'm not going to apologize for the fact that I do think that Gwar always has had kind of a roughly, on the sort of liberal side of libertarianism, right? Like, this sort of like, but very undefinable, and Brockie really sought to be that way, right? Like Brockie strove very hard for to sort of to create this kind of ambiguity. And it's an ambiguity that you see in punk a lot, right? I mean, it's always been a part of punk. There's this sort of, and it's weird because punk it's a lot like populism, right? Like it can be, you can mobilize it for a lot of different ideological ends, right? You can have, Nazi skinheads, right? Who are punk, right? I mean, Screwdriver's pretty much a fucking punk band, right? And then you can have, I don't know, Crass, right? Who are very radical liberal hippies, right? Like, I mean, so, but it all shares punk, right? So this is a form that's very facile. It's like, I mean, it can be used for a lot of different reasons and in a lot of different ways. And and Gwar, really, one thing I noticed is that people had been doing that with us, right? Like they'd been, it's funny because like skinheads don't hate Gwar because we killed a skinhead.
Why
They
do
don't.
skinheads hate Gwar?
They don't.
Oh, okay.
They don't. I mean, like, or at least they didn't. They didn't because
Wait, I have a picture here that I want to ask about. But go on while I find it.
They attacked us, right? When we got their bombers wet, when they didn't know what to expect, but we were.
I believe it was the
Yeah.
City Gardens here.
Right. Yeah.
There's all the skinheads. Give
Yeah.
me your fingers, right? Oh, some of them got a rock and roll sign on.
Well, they didn't. Yeah, that was fucking hilarious, man. I mean, like
what a fucking crazy club, from what I hear.
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. But look at that floor. I mean, they pushed everybody out of the way so they could do their fucking stupid wall of death.
Oh. Okay. So did they like Gwar or what?
Well, see,
or they just didn't care. They were just there to cause chaos no matter what.
Some of them were angry because we got them wet.
Oh.
But they had no sort of there was no ideological basis
to
their objections, right? And there still really isn't. Like, Gwar, like we're addressing them, like they're included in the conversation, even if they're laughed at, right? And Gwar does a lot of that, and I don't think that.
Slaughterama.
Yeah, that's we offer a kind of critique of culture, and we've just always done that, and I don't think that Gwar can be looked at as woke or as a liberal or as conservative. I do think that we have occupied a position, and maybe on this record.
Right, I'm talking about this record more so than the others, but I guess just because it's in the current culture where that's the topic of conversation.
I think that's the situation, is that, like, to be, if you're looking at and you're trying to think of things to write about, it's like, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like, I mean, like, think about South Park. Like, what does South Park do? What do they write about? They write about what the fuck is going on, man.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to not write about what's going on in the world. You could do that in, 1990, because so much shit that has happened hadn't happened then. It's like, we were just a different place. It was a different world, man. So things have changed a lot.
Well, enough about that serious stuff. Here's what I got to do. I got to do some Gwar news. Gwar news. So the tour, tell me about the tour. It's weird to see Gwar not headlining, but at the same time, it's cool to see Gwar playing bigger places. What are your thoughts on this?
This is a step in the long game.
That's what I was thinking. I had a very visceral reaction to this at first, but
Gwar is not going to survive. And by that, I mean that you've got a bunch of guys.
You've hit your wall, like you play Irving Plaza every year.
Yeah. I mean, we're in there, it's a bunch of guys in their early to mid 50s.
And Brent.
Out there, except Brent. Yeah.
I think he's my age, actually, which is surprising to me.
Yeah. But and we're out there, like the band's been doing this for a long time. We can't play in the same markets.
Almost 40 years.
Yeah. And we can't play in the same markets again and again. Like, it's gotten to, you get to a point where it's like, all right, well, this touring is going to get you this much money and that's it. And it's not enough to live on, and it's not even really enough to make the shit that we need to do a show.
Right. Yeah.
It's not enough to buy, why does Gwar use those stupid fucking TVs? It's because Gwar can't afford to put up a huge, big ass projection screen. This is a blue collar band, and it's been that way for years. That's why people talking about Gwar selling out is the most fucking absurd thing I've ever heard in my life. This is a band that has sacrificed everything for the ability to, you know, to put that show on. I mean, like for that, and it's always happened that way. And, you know, so yeah, I mean, trying to write songs, trying to make something that, that will, sustain Gwar. Like at this point, it's not really a matter of we want to make more money. It's a matter of we want to keep doing it. And it's kind of gotten to the point where if we don't evolve commercially, then we won't be able to do it anymore at all. And, you know, doing something like, you know, we have a new management company, and we've had them since the pandemic. We got them because our old manager died. Our old manager was the manager of Clutch.
Right.
And, you know, he passed away. He had cancer and it really sucked. We didn't know what we were going to do. We have no manager, you know, and we went out and we found, to my surprise, like almost everybody that we talked to wanted to manage the band. Like they, you know, so we were able to find a group of folks who, you know, people want to be attached to the band. They like, you know, the band is legendary. And
right. Yeah.
and
It's time to start playing on that, right?
yeah. And so like people were, you know, these guys are like, they're looking at it and they're like, why are you guys not, you know, why do you use these TVs? Why don't you have a big rear screen? Like
You want to buy that shit for us?
Yeah, you know, and we're like, well,
maybe if you didn't make any new costumes.
Yeah, yeah. So
want?
right. So they're willing to help us, man. And like, you know, the only way that you can really do that is to, like, you know, Gwar has to be like there were certain things that over the years, like we got slotted as a band that can't open for bands. Now, before that, Gwar was the band who can't play festivals.
Right. Yeah. And
how are you going to fucking make a living if you can't play festivals? So we had to prove that we could play festivals.
I saw the Sounds of the Underground tours.
Yeah.
That's when that started.
Right. The thought was they can't get off stage quick enough. They're going to fuck everything up. They're going to, you know, and we had to show them that that wasn't true. So now you've got Live Nation. Tell me why Gwar would not be considered for a fucking Rob Zombie Alice Cooper tour. How is Gwar not the best fucking band that you put in front of that tour? There isn't any, you know, Gwar belongs on that shit, right? And like, and I get a little heated about this because
get heated, man.
And it's a good thing because, like, you know, we have to go after this. Like, we're hungry for it. I mean, or else we're just gonna fucking stop. And people don't realize that. Like, it's not about getting rich. It's about keeping going. That's it. You know. So like, can we? You know, we had to get to a point, and we looked, man. We were looking for all these shots, and Mudvayne gave us one. They gave us one. You know, you come out here, you play, you know, and you look at the words.
I didn't know Mudvayne was that big, to be honest. I was a little shocked. I mean, good for them.
I mean,
you don't have to speak for Mudvayne.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to speak for Live Nation either, but like,
right.
You know, but the words that are at the bottom of that flyer, those are the words that matter on that tour. Live Nation, right? It's the biggest, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
they're the biggest concert promoters that there are, you know, almost like, I mean, even internationally, they you know, so like if Gwar, you know, let me back up a little bit.
Sure.
When we put this record out, and Gwar had nobody had even taken Gwar's music to active rock radio, right? So what the feedback that we got from people when we played them Ratcatcher was that, or when we played them Berserker Mode, or even Motherfucking Liar, right? They would listen to it and they'd be like, we don't play Gwar on the radio. Gwar's not a radio band.
That's bullshit.
We don't play Gwar on the radio. So, you know, we play
That's the world.
Yeah, we play Slayer on the radio. We play Testament on the radio. We play Anthrax on the radio. We play Five Finger Death Punch on the radio. We play like, I mean, that's a bad example because it's like, of course, but like, all of these bands, Lamb of God on the radio, but not Gwar. Gwar is so it was presumed. We had to break down that wall, and we haven't broken it down. We started to. We had to do it with our songwriting. We had to do it. It's a band that fucking proves itself every. Mike Gitter from Cream one time told me, he came up to me at a festival and he said, Gwar's been quietly putting out good records for 40 years.
The magazine.
Yeah. And I was like, you're right, Mike. Quietly putting out good records for 40 years. He's like, I don't know why people don't know it, why people don't recognize it, but
not every song is vulgar.
yeah, right. So, the band like could be, all of this stuff, you can't go anywhere if everybody's looking at you. And the first thing is like, you're not even qualified, right? You don't have the degree. You don't make it into consideration, right? And the same thing was true for playing these shows, for getting on, Live Nation and other promotion companies were looking at it and they're like, Gwar is not a band that you put on these bills, So
this is a giant leap forward in that direction.
Yeah. And the best thing about it is that it's not Weird Al, right? Weird Al loves this band. We'll probably tour with Weird Al someday. We'll probably tour. We may tour with Alice because he likes the band, right? Mudvayne, I don't think they particularly like Gwar. They're just, they know who we are and they, we're on there.
They're like one of those they're the new metal costume. Well, I guess Slipknot, but they were the other one.
We're on there because Gwar has fucking draw, right? And, people who say Gwar doesn't exist, it's like,
that's what I'm saying. I know there was like a comment in the chat somewhere before about why is Gwar not headlining this tour? And it's like, well, if we all fucking buy a ticket, maybe Gwar can headline that tour one day.
Maybe one day if Gwar plays about 4 more tours like this, then Gwar will get to the point where we can headline a tour like that. And that's the goal, man. We want to be doing that. We want to be playing these places. People look at this and they see. That's another thing. Like they go online and they look, $300 for a general admission pit ticket.
The first price I saw was VIP. It was like $1,000 something. I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, look, man.
But then I got my cheap seats. It's fine.
Yeah, it's bananas, but that's not. If you're buying it the idiot way, then yeah, that's how much it costs.
Right.
But people know that, or they should know that that's not really what it is. And not only that, but we don't have anything to do with any of that. But like, it's not like we get more money because they pay exorbitant, outrageous prices for this shit. We're just doing what we can do, man.
Yeah, totally. And my thought process going into this, and here's I'll be at the Jones Beach show in Long Island, and I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I want to go like way, way in the back and watch Gwar because I've been against the rails, and I've been in all the clubs. I want to see it from a completely different perspective. I'm going to see it from as far back as possible and watch Gwar play to a lot of people who probably never seen them, which is also a new perspective. That's not often. Usually when you see Gwar, everyone there's there to see Gwar.
That's right.
So I want to see like the reaction of people who maybe have heard of Gwar but has never seen them. And then when they get hit with that blood, it's like, I want to see that reaction.
Well, you know what? I mean,
I'm sure that was the same on the Warped Tour, which I didn't see, but
the tiny bit of like this will give you an example, right? The tiny bit of juice that this band got from those ads on Rocket. And when I say ad, I don't mean like commercial. I mean that we were added to the playlists of things like Octane, right? Or Liquid Metal, right? The tiny little bit that we got changed the population at those shows dramatically. dramatically. And it wasn't like, you know, we weren't in regular rotation. We were just added to the fucking list, you know, and that little tiny bit, you know. So if you want to see people who haven't seen the band see Gwar, just come to a fucking show, man, because it's packed with people who haven't seen this band, you know, and like it all the time. And, you know, people might think it's sad. I agree. It's sad that they get to see the band and that Dave's not there. Right. But that's also fucking reality, man. Like, that's just what happened. The guy's gone.
Yeah, I know. Well, I always said the best possible solution. This was the best possible solution to the worst possible scenario.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it is the worst fucking scenario. I mean, it fucking sucks. There's not a single person, you know, that wouldn't like just, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I mean, my life would be different. But you know what? I'd be a happy guy. I mean, I'm still, you know, I was still playing music. I was still, that it's still at the center of my life. You know, I still have a career in music, even without Gwar. But like, you know, getting an opportunity to do this, and it freaks me out when people come to the shows and they haven't seen the band with Brockie. Like, that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
And it is, you know, people are like, that's fucking sad. Well, it is sad. You're right. You're right.
But at least you can still see Gwar.
And, you know, and it really does demean the input, the impact, and the effort of a lot of people to believe that,
absolutely,
that guy, that, you know, it can't exist without one person. I mean,
it was always a collective.
always.
And I hope that the documentary kind of puts that into more perspective than most people realize.
I think it does.
Well, everybody go bid on Hitler's head.
Oh my God.
Right. That's for you bidding on your website right now, and go buy a t-shirt and fucking, you know, help this band survive. Here's what we need to do. So here's what I'm going to do. I need to do some fan art, and then we'll do some rapid fire. How's that sound?
Yeah, man. Whatever you want.
Sweet.
What do we got?
Let's see.
I'm not busy. I've got time.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll do that, and then we'll see if you want to go on. I'll keep checking in, because I'm having a lot of fun in this conversation. So where is it? Where's my fan art here? People love this part. Okay, there's Lizzie. Uh-oh, we lost him. Oh no, hopefully he comes back. I wonder if his phone died or something. Maybe we could play a video. Hello, everybody. I know, you've been like crazy chatting in the chat room. I've just been so riveted in this conversation. Welcome back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
We got worried for a second. Okay, here we go. This is Artho Destructo. Sketched this one. You Can't Kill Tara is representing.
Wonderful.
Do you get more fan art now than you did in the past, or do you think it's an equal amount, like in the original 90s, 80s?
Oh, there's more fan art now.
Yeah. Oh, this is somebody. Derelict Dum Dum made a Blöthar mask.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, pretty. And this drawing as well.
She's a very interesting artist, I think.
Who's this? Satan's Carry On. We know John Poppy's work, right? That's classic Beefcake. And then he also did Have You Seen Me, Beefcake?
Right.
And here's original Blöthar.
Oh boy.
And new Blöthar. Let's talk about toys for a second while we're here.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 toys already. Do you feel like you're finally catching up in the toy department? That like Gwar fans have always wanted?
We're trying, man. I mean, it's another
Let me
hopefully avenue.
not break anything here, but I got my 2 Blöthars here.
Good God.
Yeah, I know. Look at that guy.
Yeah, he's just absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
It's funny because the baby, she has this, Shiloh has this little playhouse, and she plays a game called Knock Knock.
Uh-huh.
And really what it is like the little dolls come up to the door, and I go and I knock, like knock, knock. And then she's like, okay, come in. And then you push them in, right? And she will not let Blöthar in. Like she doesn't want him to come inside, but she loves Bone Snapper and wants Bone Snapper to come in.
Oh,
yeah. So
funny.
she'll have Bone Snapper. I actually
So
sent.
she likes this one.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I sent Bobby a picture of Bone Snapper lounging on the couch of my daughter's dollhouse.
Hilarious.
While Blöthar, she made me cover up with a blanket.
Well, you're pretty gross.
Yeah, she doesn't like Bofar. She doesn't like him. But he has,
some memes here. We got some Gwar memes.
Oh boy.
Talk about current culture. Gwar's hitting the meme market. I just know I'll die trying to hug something that I shouldn't. I think there's some videos in there somewhere too.
That one.
You like that one? Piggy Gwar.
Very OnlyFans there.
Yeah. Your udders are.
Yeah, it's very good.
There's another one. People.
Who is this person?
Your fans, man. Oh, this is an old one from my friend Martina. I think someone owns this now. This is a giant painting.
Oh wow.
I actually saw this in person once. And then we got some Planet B photos of Blöthar. That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what venue this is. See, look, there's still some babies in the show.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your fan art.
How are you going to? Yeah. I mean, you're gonna. You can't just have decontextualized baby raping.
No.
Like there was always a reason behind it, right? I mean, we used to have. I guess it all started with Him.
Yes.
And
someone owns that prop somewhere. I think.
I'm
I
sure
think. I think the House of Masks has it.
Yeah, it was all.
Maybe it's one of Bobby's.
My favorite thing about that is like when. It had a head that would screw on, like a Coke bottle, like a 2-liter bottle, and one day it just fell off, like the head was gone, and so Brockie started bringing it out with just like a 2-liter just screwed onto the top.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but
that was a real gruesome prop.
It was, man, and Him had a story, right? Like, I mean, he was sort of a version in a way of Flopsy, right? He was a really sort of symbolized
wait, where is it?
Yeah, right. He kind of symbolized the that dark side of
have to do my Flopsy.
Yeah, Greek and Roman culture where they're like, molesting like these brilliant minds, like Brockie says in that one song about the famous artists just sucking each other's dicks,
Oh yeah, what was that? I don't remember.
Michelangelo, I think.
Oh, his Dave Brockie Experience song.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go back to the comments. I know we missed a bunch. Let's see. They paid for the Powerhouse theme and Skull Head Face. Do you know what that's referring to?
We did.
What's the Powerhouse theme?
Yeah, and actually, Dirks,
in the song.
Yeah. Dirks talked to the composer. Actually,
how did that go?
That guy wrote a lot of music for Warner Brothers, man.
And that's a weird fucking song. Skullhead Face. That is the weirdest song on the weirdest record.
Yeah, it's an early example of listen to that song. That's Mike Dirks. What's Mike Dirks on this record? Rise Again, right?
Oh yeah.
Especially like that middle section of Rise Again.
Hmm.
The guy's got a good mind.
So we got some requests for Road Behind. What else we got? Ham on the Bone, of course. Aye, 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 aye. Yeah, there we go. See, we got them. Cool Place to Park. Okay, they're just naming all your songs.
Right.
What about like Fight and Eat Steel? Were those part of a trio of songs?
Yep.
What's the other one? Was it another one of yours or that you sang?
No, I said 3, but they're not always 3.
Yeah.
They're pairs is a lot of times it's pairs.
Those two definitely pair together, right?
Yeah. And that they were both songs that Brockie wrote and was, playing bass on. Like he got into I think I might have even told him like, you should play bass more. I mean, because like the bass line to Cool Place to Park is so much better than the singing to me. Like I mean, the way people think about your music is a lot of times always very different than what we think of it. And I'm hesitant a lot of times to talk about it because I don't really believe that it matters very much what we think of it. But that song, I really, really like the bass in that song. Like that's
Cool Place to Park.
Yeah, that's an example of Brockie's musicality at its best. If you listen to the bass in that song, it's fucking amazing.
Will Gwar ever play Pussy Planet?
Probably, but not. I think it's going to have to be a special situation. But I think that I think we can get there.
That Slymaster was supposed to sing that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was a very fraught situation. She wrote the lyrics, but like her voice, like the way that Danielle sings. I mean, listen to the Torch song or like what is it? I Need a Man or whatever it is.
Oh yeah. She did My Girly Ways as well.
Yeah, right. You listen to that vocal approach, which is a sort of very ethereal, feminine voice, right? You're not talking about Diamanda Gallis here, right? You're not talking about.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, you're not talking about even Cat Power. You're not talking about Lizzie Hale, right? You're talking about more along the lines of I don't know. I'm trying to think of. I don't know. It's just a very feminine, very melodious, very smooth voice, right? So it's difficult to put that in the context of rock and roll, and
it's more theatrical.
Yeah, and the producer, who was a well-known producer, I mean, and he listened to that's Glenn Robinson,
right? Yes,
and Glenn, Glenn listened. He was like, we can't use this track, like you're gonna have to.
So she did record it, like a version of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to do that.
No, I didn't think so.
No, I tracked it because I was there.
You're always there, man.
I was there, so that's what I did. But and then I weathered the storm because Danielle was really upset about it. But it wasn't something that I had planned or tried to do, and it's just sort of what happened. And then the flip side of that is Brockie, though,
Uh-oh.
on the other side, right? Like he would, there's also a version of me singing the entire Road Behind.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, the whole fucking thing. And I'm not talking about the acoustic thing we did.
Yeah, yeah.
The original. I tracked that song all the way through.
Oh, man.
And Brockie.
If you ever remix that record, I'd love to hear that version. I'm sure everyone would love to hear that.
Yeah, I don't know if.
Was there ever a mix down of it?
No. I was actually sitting there wondering if it ever even made it over to the 1-inch or to the 1/2-inch master. It probably didn't. It's probably just sitting on the 2-inch reel somewhere. And he might have even gone over it. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Limited track space back then.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any favorite bands you played or toured with?
I love the Butthole Surfers. I love playing with them. I love touring with them. I love Voivod. I enjoyed that tour.
That was recently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, like
in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love those fucking Danzig shows. Were great, man. Like, we played like 2 of his very first shows.
Well, that's another thing we love to talk about here. I know you have like a story from that show about meeting him back after the show with dicks in your hands, and is there anything else? I heard, and there is a bootleg of Danzig's set from the first show at City Gardens, right? I hear that if you listen closely, people are chanting for Gwar in the middle of his set, and it upset him. Is that a true story?
Yeah.
And then what? We were supposed to do more shows with him, and you got kicked that off, or what's the story there?
I don't know about that. I don't remember it that way, but I wasn't really paying a lot of attention. I mean, it was.
Were you a fan of the Misfits at the time, or?
Yeah, I mean, I had been a fan of the Misfit. It's weird because like Gwar are a bunch of geeks, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
So like, we don't fit in with fucking Eerie Vaughn. And like, I mean, like this is not, we don't even with
they took themselves pretty seriously.
Yeah. I mean, even like Kerry King, right? Like that's not who we are, right? Like, we're way more like, Les Claypool, right? Like that.
Yeah. And those guys aren't playing little games with little figurines in the bus after the show. Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
Something hit my front door.
Oh.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know, kids. But anyway, we, I'm just trying to think like, so
the Danzig stuff.
Yeah. I was really being a hardcore kid.
Did you ever see the Misfits?
Yeah, but I was excited about Chuck Biscuits.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to see him, and he was fucking great, man. And I watched him.
Drummer, yeah.
I was just glued to what he was doing. He was so fucking good, and
definitely a step up from Sam Hain.
Oh man, what a player! And so I watched that, and then loved it. But I'm just Ween. We played a lot with Ween early on. And that's really where sort of like where Gwar lived was the intersection of Danzig and Ween. Maybe
that's a good description. Yeah.
And I mean commercially, like at a time when that stuff was moving, but Gwar never moved, right? Like Gwar didn't. These guys have watched that happen a lot, right? Come out on tour with us, Lamb of God. Bye, right? That's just it's the reality of the situation, man.
Dude, tell it. We want to know a little bit more about your working with Pigface.
So, I didn't work with Pigface very much at all. What happened was that Martin Atkins, who I liked a lot, because he had played drums in Killing Joke.
Yeah.
And Killing Joke is...
And Pill.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, he was in Pill, but I was a little less impressed with that.
Fair.
I was less impressed with Danzig than Chuck Biscuits. But, I wanted to see...
And Ministry, I guess, right?
Yeah. He wound up doing that. And I mean, it was like that whole scene. Pigface was just kind of that scene, like out on the road.
They're always that scene. If they're Pigface is touring and you're in a band, you're like on stage with those guys.
Yeah, yeah,
I've seen them a couple times
yeah.
later on, but
Mm-hmm.
still a
And
circus.
right, yeah, it was, and I mean,
I've given Martin Atkins my demo.
what was exciting to me about that was that you had, Bill Riflin, and Bill Riflin was a fucking good, God, he was a good player. And and Martin, I mean, I was really excited about playing with Martin. And I did one show and then I did another show.
Did you like rehearse, or did they were just like, here's the songs
No.
we're playing?
Yeah, yeah. It was
Join on.
well, it wasn't even like they were very unstructured.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Well, especially back then.
yeah. And it was like, I backstage, I hung out with I mean they were a difficult hang, I will say that, right? Like,
Okay.
you're not the most approachable person, and this always surprises people. Ogre was all right.
Skinny Puppy on tour right now, final tour.
And Bill was very sweet, Bill Riflin. But Trent Reznor was the most.
He was there with you?
Yeah, yeah. And he was
Holy shit.
yeah, he was really
Was he a fan of Gwar?
he knew who the band was, and he liked what we were doing, and he was very vulnerable.
Okay.
And very
'Cause this was like pre-fame Trent Reznor ish, right?
yeah,
Like 92, I'm guessing you were involved. I
yeah,
don't know. I'm guessing.
yeah.
What do you know what year you were doing these
That
shows?
sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
90, 92. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't as big as he would be, that's for sure. But I mean, he was. I mean, I knew him. I knew that he was the most famous person there, even then. And yeah, I mean, he was just really very approachable and very humble and very sweet and very like I said, vulnerable. Like, like, and a lot of a lot of the, I don't know, man. Like, there's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of
Sure.
people that are,
Yeah.
I mean, Al Jorgensen is a really vulnerable guy. I mean, at least back then, and I mean, when I say that, I mean, these are guys that like, it's easy to step wrong with them, right? But they don't get angry. They just get their feelings hurt. It's like, and you're like, wait, I can't hurt your feelings. You're this famous person. Like, you know what I mean? It's, and then you realize, well, it's because they've got their own shit going on. It's like,
I mean, that vulnerability, I think, breeded some amazing music from those guys.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You can hear it all over the Downward Spiral.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's no question. But I'm very impressed with Trent Reznor. I think he's a very, very talented and he's a genuinely good person, I believe.
So did you play Suck with him?
Did I play what?
Suck? That was like his Pigface song.
Oh, no. No, I didn't. I only played like 2 songs with him.
Okay.
I didn't do like
Were you in the full Beefcake thing, or were you just Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah? You brought the whole costume out there?
Yeah.
That's great.
Cliff Roth signed off.
Oh, well, Cliff, he's awesome.
Oh, Cliff. Did you have a question, Cliff?
Well, he may have laid, I'm still like catching up on him, so he may have laid them one in there.
Yeah, he's going to bed.
Favorite Beefcake that wore the helmet after you left? And I guess here's a related Beefcake question, like how much how do I want to phrase this? I know the helmet came from a separate character before you, but is there a reason that you picked that look to kind of go forward with?
I mean, it was the costume that I liked the best when I would see the band.
Gotcha.
And so, you know, I mean,
Who used to
essentially,
wear
like,
that? Was that Chris Bopes used to wear that, I think?
he may have wore it at one point, but it was Greg Ottinger usually.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, I mean, I walked into the slave pit and in the dairy, and there was all of the costumes that they had been wearing and that I had seen on stage, and they were just laid out. And they're like, you know, do any of these appeal to you? And I was like, and it was Don Draculich that was helping me. And I was like, yeah, I like that. I like the Centurion helmet, you know. And so that's what, you know, it was down to 2. I also liked the big sort of marching band hat that was like a grand poobah with the horns on it.
Who wore that? Do you know? Or was that part of a character?
Ron Curry wore it, and it wasn't a
Oh, okay.
character. But it was like, you know, it was really a cool look. It was like almost like, you know, one of those British guards, like the big fuzzy hats, but with horns on it. So it kind of looked like.
Did you reuse that for Prestige?
Not for Prestige, no.
Okay, because there was something similar in that.
Yeah, Prestige, they had the big ice cream cone hair. I got to let my dog out here.
Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead.
But he was, no.
Oh, you can take us with you? Great, yeah, take us with you.
So it was, they just showed me all of those pictures or all of those costumes, and I picked the one that I thought was the best or that I liked the best, and then they built the costume around it, and then we developed the character around it. You know, it was a lot less deliberate than the development of Blöthar, where it was like, all right, I want this to be sort of a, you know, like some kind of a healer, a weird sort of sexual Viking healer or something. I don't know.
So what about I guess, how did you relate to the characters, the people playing Beefcake after you, and what they brought to the characters?
My favorite. So the person I thought.
Are you giving Casey notes on stage? He's done it longer than you, I think.
Yeah, Jameson did it longer than me.
Wow.
I mean,
that's weird to think about.
Yeah, I liked as a player. I like Casey the best as a bass player. I think he's, you know,
dude's a pro.
Yeah, I mean, there's things about bass.
He was in Ministry too.
Yeah, he was, and you know, just Casey, like, he thinks like a bass player, and he's knowledgeable about playing and more so, like, he's more conventional in some ways, but he's a dead fucking solid player with a lot of. He knows a lot of turnarounds. He knows a lot of. He's a very knowledgeable player, and he's got a good sound. You know. So
I don't know. It's a little, when he started playing bass and it was all clean, I got a little, it was weirded me out a little bit. Had to get used to that.
When he came back?
No, like Ragnarok.
Yeah.
That bass is so clean and pristine. It was weird to me because yours is the opposite of that.
We do still go around about that a little bit. Like I'm
well, that sound coming back to the new record, like, warmed my heart.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get him.
That's the classic Gwar sound.
Well, you know, he doesn't.
I love Casey, but
he's weird because, you know, he's an artist, and he really doesn't. You know, it's like he reminds me of James. You know, not as a player, but like, you know, James Jamerson from Motown, like, you know, the famous bass player. He would just play what the fuck he plugged into. Like, he didn't he didn't care. You know, he just, like, what do you play? Like, what is your gear? I don't know. Whatever's there. Like,
well, that was another question. What is your current gear when you're recording?
Well,
your amps, I guess.
Well, hold on. Let me. I'm trying to answer your question. Like, as musically, I think that Casey was the best Beefcake. I thought that Jameson did a pretty good job with the character. Um, you know, and Casey does a good job with the character too. It's just that it's never been what, you know, nobody's done with it what
No, yeah,
the
definitely not.
character should be, which is, you know, he was, which is kind of difficult because like the character, like now that I've been to school and, you know, I'm even more like the pedantic prick that is Beefcake, you know, like, so it's been a challenge to make Blöthar a different character that's
right.
that's not just Beefcake with udders.
Right.
But you know, so that's my relationship to it. I really think that, you know, it's weird. Todd looked the best in the costume.
He was pretty.
Yeah.
I met him a couple of times. He's a big dude.
Right. Todd looked the best. Casey sounded the best, and Jameson, I think, did a really good job with the sort of character aspect of it. When he, you know, but my gear right now is I have 2 amps. I have a 300 watt Fender Super Bassman, which is what is on the record, and it's what is on. It's on Blood of Gods too. And I have a 300 watt. You know, I got into tubes. I have a 300 watt Sun head that is.
Did Brent have anything to do with that? I know he's all about the amps.
No, I had all this shit before I was in Gwar. I bought most of it when I was in American Grizzly, which was a band.
Oh yeah, I forgot about American Grizzly, dude. When are you gonna put that stuff back out? I think it was only available on MySpace.
Yeah,
you can't do that. You can't that anymore. And that was half of Kepone as well, or 2/3, right? Yeah, I remember that. That was cool stuff.
It was fun, and you know, so it was back then that I started playing that shit, and then just like, you know, 8-10 cabinets. I have this one cabinet that is handmade that I like a lot. It's got 2 15s and 2 6s and a 10 in it. But you know, our producer didn't like it, which now makes me kind of not like it. So what I've been doing with it is I've been running it with an 810, one on each side of the stage, and it very, you know, put the amps down to 2 watts, 2 ohms, and it's pretty fucking fierce.
Fucking cool. I did want to ask you if you'd use ChatGPT, and if since that came out, you feel vindicated for all the things you've been doing on the new storyline, and like the takeover of technology and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of not difficult to see. That thing sucks, man. I mean, it's like from a creative standpoint, and just the idea that like I have been using it, and I'll tell you what I use it for. I take lyrics and put them in there and say, what's this about?
Like other people's songs or your songs?
My songs.
Or both. Okay.
Yeah.
New songs or old songs?
New songs. You know, but I tried it with some old songs, you know, and it's weird because like that.
I'm gonna try that with Sonder Commando.
Yeah, textual analysis, it does a pretty good job of textual analysis, but only if you've actually successfully conveyed the meaning of the song, right? Like if not, then it gets way off base, and you're like, you know, and that's actually what I used it for. I was like, you know, am I saying what I want to say here? Like,
interesting. Yeah, it's how you use it, right?
Yeah. And you know, I mean, that's one way to do it. One way to think about, I mean, it's sort of just a shortcut, like from, the same thing happens with Mike Dirks, right? It's like, except for he's a lot more pleasant to be around than Chat GPT.
Right.
Like, what do you think of this song? And if he looks at you and says, what's it about? Then you got to start again.
We got someone from your high school here, Thomas Dale. Is that where you went to school?
Yeah.
And you paint Gwar underneath the bridge?
I
Apparently
don't know
you're
if
a legend. You don't have to admit to any crimes here.
Yeah, I don't know if I did that or
Yeah.
not. I think somebody else might have done it, but I do remember I did go to Thomas Dale, and I lived behind the high school, and I know what he's talking about, that Gwar tag.
Is it still there, you think?
I don't know about that, but I didn't do it.
Gotcha. I don't know where it is. Someone asked about the steak base. Do you still have the steak base? What's the story about the steak base?
The one that was in the picture that you showed that Brockie was playing with Death Piggy, and that might have been Dick Suckjack that he was playing with, but no, that was too early. That was too early. I think that was that steak base is no more.
No.
I sold that to an ex-girlfriend of mine who stripped it and put different hardware on it and all that, did a bunch of stuff to it. The other steak base was actually a cover.
There's sort of a cool picture of it.
That's the other one.
Oh, okay.
I think. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, that's
this is from the Scumdogs version.
Yeah. So that was a cover that was made by.
Right.
It was a vinyl cover that you put on the bass, and it just sort of is. I saw it the other day. It's rotten. It's falling apart.
Let's see. Oh yeah, we need pictures of Captain Walrus. That's what we need.
I'd love to see a picture of that.
You never oh yeah, I know, right? It's strange. Okay, we got a lot of people talking to each other. I don't think anyone's asking questions. Let's see. Oh, here's a question that I have. What do you think Dave would think of the current everything that's happened in the past few years?
I don't know, man. I mean, there's a different so Dave was very wasn't well in his last few years, so thinking about him, and I also like wasn't around him very much at all during that time period, but to the degree I was, it wasn't a super great experience. I mean, like I think that he was struggling a lot and not in a good place. So when I think about him, like, to answer that question honestly, it's like, what do you take? Do you take Dave at that point, or do you take Dave in 1990, right? Like,
let's say Dave in 1990 taking on the current cultural demands.
Well,
how do you think he would shape that Gwar record?
So I think that he would have been very shocked by it's really hard to tell, man.
Right. I mean, it's, as much as you can answer it, it's just interesting
to the degree that I can
ruminate about.
I feel that Dave would have been he was on the side of the underdog, right? Like, I mean, he always tried to align himself that way. And so I think that I do think that Dave might have struggled with this sort of the change where people have had, like, comedians or feel like they can't say what they want to say, like, you get sort of like the censorship that comes out of like college campuses and things like that. I don't think Dave would have adapted well to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that. I don't know. I mean, I think that would have been a struggle, but it would have been interesting because he was so smart, right? Like he probably
He
would
must have would have probably a very unique perspective on it.
Yeah, he really would have, and I don't know what that perspective, like, things. I mean, just so many things have happened that, like, that were they're just unimaginable.
It's been
like
a crazy couple of years.
Yeah, crazy fucking couple of decades, and so I really don't know how to answer it, but like I do know that towards the end of his life, that Dave had, like, he was into these kinds of conspiracy oriented thought. Well, it's not conspiracy. Like he wanted to.
Conspiracy's gotten a bad name these days.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
It was more like he wanted to take over. Like he had plans to do things like take over the government and and do it like in a sort of bloodless way, like go in there and and he talked about these things very seriously. And he had some great
ideas. Do you think him saying stuff like that would get him branded in a weird way these days?
Yeah, it seems like it'd be hard, like the politicization of everything, I think would have been hard for him to deal with as well. But I'm sure that he would have found a way to be himself and to keep, it's just that I can't really say what that is. And that's weird, right? It's weird. Like, I knew the guy for so long, and what I knew about him was, and I don't know if this says something about Dave or about the world. I think it's the world, right? Like, I'm hesitant to say what I really think, which is, I think that Dave would have been horrified by Donald Trump. I think he would have been like, he would have seen the sort of just the crassness of American politics. Like, he would have reacted against that. That's one thing that I believe. I think that he probably would have really sought to find ways to push the envelope, and I have no idea what he would have done. I have no idea how he would have done it, but he was starting to. I think Dave had started to kind of want to do some other stuff besides Gwar too, right?
Yeah, I heard that. I mean, do you think he would have lasted in the band? I heard even that maybe he would have replaced himself at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was
maybe just stay in the background for a little bit, or
yeah, that was sort of part of what he was wanting to do, was to just do some other stuff, some other creative stuff. And so I really don't know. Like, I mean, I do, like I said, I think that he would have been a little put off and shocked by the sort of politicization of the world. And that, I mean, he aligned himself a lot with, like, sort of hippie causes. I mean, he just did, like, I mean, people can say what they want, right? That are fans of the band and that don't align that way, but he did. I mean, he was, in his own way, I think, a big supporter of gay rights. He was a supporter of just individualism, and people's ability.
I mean, that's kind of part of his character that he was putting out there too. I mean, he's the king queen, for God's sake.
Right. Yeah. And
I mean, he's been doing that since the beginning.
Yeah. And he would have, I mean, he was he was obsessed with obscenity. I mean, like, he would have done all of that.
Yeah. Well, here's another sort of devil's advocate question, because I could defend this, but for people who might ask, how do you defend yourself going on Fox News, Blöthar?
How do I defend myself? I don't think I need to defend myself.
I mean, all press is good press, right? I mean, that's a lot of people watching that.
How did Dave defend himself for going on Fox News?
Dude, those were some of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
They really were, and he did a much better job of it than I did.
Yeah, but it's still good that they let you back on the show after.
Yeah, I mean, I did good the first couple of times. Like,
Wait, you were on a couple times? I only saw one of them, I think.
yeah, I mean, when I actually had to go there and sit in the studio, that didn't.
I
go
don't think I
well.
saw that. I saw the TV. What happened in the studio?
It's one thing to like. I mean, look, man. I was in a room with fucking what's her name? The black-haired congresswoman.
No.
Yeah, Boebert.
Boebert, yeah. Oh, man.
And with like some
Was
like
she on the table with you, or?
Yeah, and some weird like uptight wrestler guy who was not cool at all. Like he wasn't funny. He wasn't, so I mean, like there wasn't a lot coming back at me
Right
in that room, except for maybe
they laughed at Odorous a lot. They were very much enjoying his his brand of humor.
Yeah, and like I mean that's not. I mean it's not. People don't like this about Gwar. I don't care. There's nothing I can fucking do about it. I am who I am. I'm not. I'm more comfortable being a part of something that's funny, and like I did really well as a foil in a comedy team, right? But I'm not going to sit out there and just flood the zone with hilarious comments like right and left. I mean, I just think about what I say.
mean, Dave was one of the best improv comedians that ever lived.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, I'm
not everyone can match that. Jeez, that's a big.
And I don't feel any compulsion to try.
No, yeah.
So it's like when I'm up there, I'm just being myself and answering and doing what I can. But I didn't like Greg Gutfeld, and I didn't like.
It's funny where Blöthar, the character, is the good guy in the room.
Yeah, and I didn't really like all of the people that I was there with. I mean, so, and they were nice enough, like nobody. But there was a look like it was, seeing me in person was very different, right? Like,
sure.
If I'm on TV, then it's like there's a distance, and they
can.
And we can joke them back and forth and everything goes good. But being there, it was like you could feel their sort of just condescension, and I didn't like it. So, yeah.
All right, I got a few more things, and then maybe we could do a part 2 one day, but we should wind this down. Now you can see how people talk to me for 3-4 hours. Right?
You're a good interviewer.
Oh, well, thank you. So I got to ask this because, as some people know, I am member number 237 of the band Green Jelly, which is old school now. And I heard a story from Bill Manspeaker that you were at the first show they ever played, Three Little Pigs, and you told them after the show that that's going to be a hit. Is that true?
Probably.
Do you remember anything about going to see Green Jelly back in the day?
Yeah, I saw them at Raji's and invited them to come see us at Fender's Ballroom.
Right.
And they were really, really great. And a lot of that Bill was at the time sort of the central figure with a lot of other really talented people, right?
Well, that's where I'm going with this, because the other thing I'm involved in is I am making a documentary. See, I couldn't do the Gwar one because it was already taken. That's why I started this show. I told Scarp Barber, he was my first guest on this show, the biggest gripe I have with the Gwar documentary is that I didn't get to make it. So that's why I'm doing this series. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna
Right.
basically do my own version of this. But what I am, and somebody sort of did a green jelly one, so I'll leave that alone for now. So I picked Haunted Garage. Do you have any Haunted Garage Dookie Fly Swatter stories? And there's a lot of contention on this one. Did Gwar ever actually play with them?
I know that Dookie was at the shows a lot.
Right.
And
I don't think it ever happened, but
I don't think it did either.
I think there was a lot of crossing paths, but it didn't quite happen.
Right. But he was there, I mean, I remember him being at the Palladium show distinctly. I remember talking to him.
There's a big story about that I wanted to talk to you about. Do you know about this?
No.
Okay, so this was like what, Palladium 1991 or something like that, right?
Mhm.
I believe maybe Green Jelly may have played that show with you. And
Maybe.
no? And maybe the Rollins band, does that sound familiar?
The Rollins band, I believe, played it.
I
Yeah.
believe Green Jelly actually played that show.
Okay.
Anyways, that's not the point. In the middle of the show, I guess during your set, somebody jumped off the column speaker and maybe hurt themselves. Do you remember this at all? Dookie took that as an influence for a song he wrote for Haunted Garage called 5 Dead Stage Divers.
Oh, wow.
And it was all based on that Palladium show, I believe. Yeah. So that's what I discovered making the Haunted Garage documentary.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know that Dookie's a talented guy, and he's he's an interesting guy. With Bill, it was actually, there may be room yet for a Green Jello documentary if Bill's
They just did a piece on them on Vice, but it was about sort of the current state.
yeah.
He does a monthly show at the Whiskey now, broadcast the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, back then, he had Kimmy,
His wife, yeah.
yeah, and
Mhm.
and
Yeah, I went on tour with their son Damien.
yeah, and Kimmy was a really, really talented person.
Yeah, she did all that cover art and everything.
Yeah, and just her sense of humor.
I never got to meet her.
Yeah, she was a good lady, and I mean, to me,
Hot
like,
too back in the day.
oh my God,
Damn, Bill knows how to pick them.
yeah. So that was interesting, but I mean, my point is that it's a band that has some really interesting history and a lot of really cool people.
Well, somebody sort of made a documentary about him. That's why I'm putting it on hold. But work on the Haunted Garage one first. Did you ever see Haunted Garage?
Yeah, I did.
Did you have opinions about them, or you were kind of like the weird theatrical bands of the era?
I liked I liked Dookie, and I've always liked surf guitar, right? So
there was a bit of that in there, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like there was it was one of those bands with a real, I know this sounds like I'm living in a glass house here, but it had a sort of rotating musicians, right? Like I don't remember.
There was a sort of a solid lineup for a period of time, but yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't know that I always saw them with a solid lineup,
Probably only the drummer would have changed in the eras you would have seen them.
Okay. Yeah. I just remember that they had that their guitar player was cool.
Yeah.
But I don't remember very much about the.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember any kind of rivalry with them because you were both on Metal Blade at the same time?
No.
Okay, cool. Do you remember playing with the Deli Creeps?
Yes.
Tell me about the Deli Creeps, playing with the Deli Creeps. And did you have an impression of seeing Buckethead back then? Did you get to see him?
Yeah, he was fucking ridiculous. I mean, there were all these
scum dog.
there were all these LA musicians, man, that like, I mean, and Bill actually, at the beginning, I mean, he was right there. Like, I mean, I jammed.
Oh yeah, he's always in the center of it.
Yeah, I jammed with Danny from Tool, and
yeah,
and I remember what a serious player he was. Like even back then, like
wow, where did you like? What's the context of you jamming with Danny Carey?
Just his house. Like I just was over there hanging out with him.
That's awesome.
And he had a bunch of stuff, and so we just sort of like.
Yeah, and Maynard lived at the Green Jelly Loft, so.
Yeah, and then and I feel like Danny lived close, or like maybe even downstairs, or maybe that was.
Could have been. He might have lived there too.
A rehearsal space or something, but.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember hanging out with him and playing music, and he was a really fun guy and very sweet. And they had a guitar player who also was really into like
talk about a revolving lineup. Green Jelly. I met this year, remember, number 1114.
Good God.
So I am like way old school.
No. Yeah, so but it was really interesting. Buckethead, it was clear when I was watching him, because like the gig, like the Deli Creeps, it was a little dumb, right? Like it wasn't like totally cool, but he as a player, like it was obvious, like holy shit, this guy's good. And not only that, but his character on stage was good too. And he was really sweet, normal, approachable guy.
Yeah, did you guys hang out with
without
him?
The fucking bucket head? Like, but you put that thing on, and what I remember, I just never forget, he's playing, like, doing all this fucking cool shit. And the singer is like goofing around, and he unplugs him, right? And he just goes, like he just stopped and stood there completely motionless, like he was literally unplugged until somebody plugged him back in. And I thought that was really
he's brilliant like that.
Look, everybody's going to sleep.
Yeah, we're gonna end this soon. Dookie wanted to bring out a trampoline for 5 dead stage divers. Yeah, they did. They ended up doing that at their last show. All right, let me hit some rapid fire with you. How about that?
All right.
Well, is Gwar gonna be on Bill Maher?
I hope so.
That would be great. Wait, we have coming up on my other show this month, we have Titties the Clown, Green Jello member 1005 here. So you're almost old school too, man. What's the truth about Dave Grohl and Gwar? Is there any truth to that?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he was sort of an area musician playing in Scream and all, right?
He was an area musician playing in Scream, and he had been in a band called Dane Bramage that played with my old band, The Guilty.
Oh, wow.
I met him and was friends with him, and that guy.
He must have been really young too.
He was, and he was the best drummer I'd ever seen in my life. And before he went over to the West Coast, Gwar was doing well, and he was up there, and he wanted to join a good, a bigger band, and we talked about it, and and I would have loved to have played with him. I really, really wish that had happened.
Yeah,
at least for a little while. I'm glad that we wound up with Brad. But
sure, yeah,
that would have
been pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been a very wise decision for him, though.
No, I think he picked well. Well, I do. This maybe I'll bring you back to talk more about Kepone. I wanted to show off my Kepone stuff.
Oh, nice.
I don't have any of the albums on vinyl, but I got like all the singles here. And I love Kepone. I always loved Kepone as well. I want to ask you about one song in particular, I guess, because it's also one of my favorite songs. And it's sort of two songs that you do, but Dead Pop Ideal.
Mm-hmm.
The second that thing starts, I'm just like, this is incredible. I don't know what it is about it. And I know that was partially used in a song on Skin as well.
Yeah.
So what's the story with that?
On
piano.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like a way that we could connect. Like Tim had this really beautiful melody written,
And was that all in E flat tuning as well? Like, did you transfer
Yeah,
that tuning over?
yeah,
I
and
feel
he
like
had,
that kind of influences the way your songs come out.
yeah, I think so. But Tim had, he just had some cool melody ideas that he had been playing on piano, and we were able to, there isn't really a message or a meaning behind it.
No,
We just
yeah.
sort of took the opportunity to create some continuity between the records and put it on there.
Nice. People have old Kepone shirts. I never got to see Kepone. Do you think I'll ever get to see Kepone?
I do.
Okay,
I think
cool.
a lot of people might get to see Kepone, but
Ooh,
we'll see.
I'll take it. Here's another weird reference. Here's going back to the new record, "Rock Me Amadeus." I almost fell out of my chair when I heard that. Do you have a connection to Falco?
Other than thinking that he's fucking funny, and cool, really cool, German musician.
Mm-hmm. I
Um,
mean, that was a banger.
yeah, and
Both versions of it.
and it was just, I mean, it was fun to like drop those rhymes in there, and
I don't think the kids are gonna get that one. That
yeah,
was one for me.
yeah, I don't care. I mean, like,
Yeah, no, of course not. But
eh,
it was an added, like, when I get something like that, I'm like, oh, did I just hear that? Did they just sing "Rock
yeah,
Me Amadeus" in the middle of a song?
yeah. I mean, to me, it's like, uh, uh, polysemousness, right? It's like
I don't know
it's
what that means, Professor.
intertextuality.
Please just explain it to me.
um, so it just means like when you use a reference to something inside of something else, then that thing takes on some characteristic of the thing you're using, right?
Mhm.
So like, and sometimes they call it intertextuality, right?
That
Uh,
makes more sense to me, yeah.
yeah, and like, so like you hear people do this all the time, like rappers do it fluidly with ease, and
Sure.
they don't call it that big stupid word, right? It's just, you know
I
like,
mean, Gwar's had a history with hip hop too, but going back 30 years. I mean,
that's right.
ripping off NWA was pretty balls, huh?
Yep. And
Do you ever hear any feedback from them about that?
no, I mean, I know that Ice-T is really a big fan of Gwar.
Oh yeah, well, Body Count
Um,
played the Gwar barbecue once,
yeah,
yeah,
and but I never heard anything. I mean, I know they all know who we are, man. I mean,
sure.
they know
I
about us.
mean, if you were controversial in the early 90s, like you're a small group there.
Yeah, but
Um,
it was fun to do, and I think that yeah, I mean, that's a great example of that sort of intertextuality, right? Like you're hinting at something, and then you sort of bring the meaning of that thing into your meaning. And so, I mean, in a way, that's why I said "Rock Me Amadeus," because the word sounded good, but also because, like, I don't know, like the Falco
it's
song. Like,
fine.
what the
Yeah.
fuck is that
I mean, I
song
just wanted to
about?
shout out that reference more than anything because
Yeah,
I very
yeah.
much appreciated it. Um, okay, here's a quick question I want to ask you, and this just happened to be a prop I have by hand, not planning this, but I got this in the mail the other day. This is the Classics of Love EP, which is Jesse Michaels from Operation Ivy. And I know you played at the Gilman Street with Op Ivy once. How did that go?
Um, it was great. I mean,
Did
uh,
did Op Ivy like Gwar and vice versa?
yeah.
Or did you
We had
know
played.
about Op Ivy at the time?
Sure, we played with them. That wasn't the first time we
Oh,
played.
really?
No, we played with them in at the Brick and Wood in Connecticut, in
Okay, I
Hartford,
didn't know they
Connecticut.
got that far out of California.
Yeah, they were touring in a
I
fucking
think
car.
they only did one tour, so that was it. Must have been
Yeah, they
it.
were touring in just like a big car. It was like a
Mhm.
Cadillac.
Yeah, I mean, Rancid wrote a song about it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Did I know Gilman Street's known for being very PC. Did they have any problems with Gwar, or did they
No,
get it?
they got it. Yeah, I mean,
Cool.
they got it for the most part. I mean, You know, it was more like we had problems with them.
Right.
You know?
Speaking about problems, did you ever expect that this was going to happen?
I never thought that would
And
happen.
are we going to get udders in the future or what? I was telling Hunter he should make his little nub.
I think that we might do something. I don't know if we do it with them again, but we would do something.
And this is one of the small ones.
Yeah. They're just weird, man. Like
I don't have space for that giant cuttlefish.
Oh no. Yeah, you can't have
I'm not like some of those collectors. I don't collect. I like all the music, the toys, comic books, but when you get to the masks and stuff, like I can't do it. I can't do that.
Yeah. They got some really big time collectors, man.
Oh yeah, the Gwar Museum guys. They're Gwarzeum, I think they call it now.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty serious. Well, I had AJ Good on the show, and I saw his collection. His prized possession is Jizmek's feet, which must be very smelly. I don't know.
I wonder why that's.
Does he play in those things? I heard he plays in those things.
Yeah, he does.
That's nuts. All right, I think we did it. Let's close this on. I live in New York, so do you have any fond or strange memories of Gwar in New York?
Are you in the city?
Day? Well, I lived in the Astoria, Queens for 15 years.
Okay.
So let's say yes.
All right.
I'm in the suburbs now, but I'm still like
Right.
just a quick car ride away. So I see all the New York shows, all the stuff. Every time you're at Irving Plaza or Warsaw or Webster Hall, I'm there.
I loved hanging around with the Lunatics so much, man, back in the old days.
Oh, I have a flyer for that, actually. I actually saw that. I know Gwar's played with them, but I saw that Rog played with the Lunatics once, too.
Yeah, and Kepone played with them a bunch.
And at CBGB's, no less. Is that correct?
Yeah. They were
that
just
must have been cool.
Such a good
Do you know they wrote about Gwar in their book?
Yep.
Yeah,
I know.
it's awesome. I finally got to see the reunion show of theirs. They were incredible.
They're sweet and just, you know, it was so much fun. That was really one of the best times of my life.
So there it is.
Nice.
I guess tell me about this show. Let's just hone in on one. Like CBGB's. Did you play CBGB's more than this one time?
Oh yeah.
In any band?
Yeah, a bunch of times. I played there probably a dozen times.
With Gwar?
With Gwar.
I can't imagine. Really? Gwar played
Yeah.
CBGB's?
Yeah, and with Kepone.
I can't imagine them fitting in CBGB's.
I think probably Kepone played there more than Gwar, but Gwar played there at least 3 times, like 2 or 3 times.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
there's no recordings of those?
I don't know. I know, but you know, another New York story. Like I remember hanging out at King Tut's Wawa Hut and talking.
I don't know that place. What's that place?
And talking to Lemmy.
Okay.
You know, I guess another big memory would be right across the street from King Tut's Wawa Hut, which was the Pyramid Club, which was.
I was going to bring up the Pyramid because I spent most of my weekends of my 20s at the Pyramid. It wasn't really a rock club anymore, but I knew I'd seen, you know, Gwar played there, Nirvana played there, Chili Pepper, everyone played there in the early 90s. It's reopening as a rock club, just so you know.
That's great.
It's not going to be called the Pyramid, but it's in the process of being renovated.
Well, we played there with Nirvana.
What?
Yeah.
You played that show?
Yeah. And,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was Gwar and Nirvana, and that was a show
where Dave Grohl?
Yeah, before Dave Grohl. And it was
wow.
It was a lot of fun. I remember it. There was a bunch of drag queens there.
Excellent.
Up in the dressing room that we were sharing the dressing room with. And I remember that's the famous show where we all did acid and then we came out naked at the end of it.
Really?
Yeah. And
you played the Pyramid a couple times though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know there's some videos of you playing at the Pyramid. Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Right. And then, you know, another great memory from New York for me with Kepone was we were playing some kind of a big festival and Kepone was on this thing and we played a show and there was a band before us and they were like, the guy was doing this really irritating thing where he would call out the name of bands that he liked and they were all like shitty it was like their guitar player broke a string, and he's like, "Oh man," like just sort of name checking bands, but they were all like sort of crappy popular bands, like Space Hog or whatever, And I was like, all right. I mean, and not that they're crappy, but like,
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, so I got up there and Tim broke a string. And so I started naming, like, I was mocking him, right? And I was like, Bad Brains, Magazine, Minutemen, right? And I didn't know it. And then, Tim, he changed string really quick. So I only got like 3 or 4 out. And people would clap, like, and when I said the Minutemen, they kind of went crazy, and then we got off stage, and Mike Watt from the Minutemen came over to me, and I didn't know he was there.
Wow.
And
I was going to
didn't,
say, he must have been was he a big influence on you as a bass player?
yes. And I didn't know that he was there, but he came up to me, he just walked straight up to me and gives me this big hug. And he's like, "I saw you up there. I saw you, big guy. I saw you." And I was just like, he's like, "I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing." I was like, man, that sort of made my life as a musician, probably more than anything else. So.
This guy says, or whoever it said, who heard Iggy Pop was at that show with Nirvana. Is that true?
He may have been there. I've seen Iggy, but I've never spoken with him.
Any chance of a Brockie documentary or biography? That's an interesting.
There is. There was actually, there's been a script in development for that.
Like a documentary or a biopic?
A biopic.
Really? Yeah. Interesting.
I
never even thought of that.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens with it.
Okay, I lied. I have one last question. I did. When I first got into Gwar, I found my first bootleg tape of Gwar is still probably my favorite show that I've ever seen. Halloween Tour, 1993. So it was the only, and this is why it's so important to me. I don't even know if there's a question so much as a reflection on this, but that was the only tour and the only time I've ever seen This Toilet Earth band play This Toilet Earth songs. Was that like, do you remember anything about it? And that was, I think, your last tour with the original lineup. Any memories about that? Or is there any recordings from that? What's in the GWARPod? Is there a lot of soundboard audio from back in the day sitting around?
Yeah, there is. I'm sure
and that show on the road behind, like, we ever gonna hear the rest of that? Because that is some killer recordings.
Yeah, and Scott Wolf was doing front of house at that time, so I would imagine that there has to be some audio of it somewhere.
That was just so, like, hearing those songs live with that band, with you, incredible. I mean, it's the only time it ever happened. Such a short little period of time.
Yeah, and we'll do some. We're going to bring some of those tunes back. I've been sort of really leaning on the guys about putting together it's weird because, like, I don't know, like, you can only do when you've got so many songs, it's hard to get them all.
Oh, yeah, I know.
To
one from each album is a whole Gwar set.
Yeah, right. You can't. So we kind of. I am lobbying to move some of the ones that we play all the time out of the set, though.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Not that I don't love any of these songs, but, like, give room to some. And you have. You brought up, like, Crackdown and Issue of Tissue and Fight and Eat Steel as well.
Yeah.
I always think, and I don't think you've ever played this live in any version of Gwar. Flab Corp 7 would make a great fight song. I'm just putting it out there.
We have played it live. We have not played Pussy Planet live ever.
Wait, you played Flab Corp 7 live?
Yep.
When?
I don't know. I mean, I just know that we played
Like
it live.
in the original lineup, or
Yeah. Like, I mean, back
I've
in the
never
day,
heard it. I've never heard it live.
Yeah.
But that would be a good fight song to bring back. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like an unintelligible lyric, so you don't really
Right.
need to replicate that live.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
I
like,
know
what a
we
killer
played
groove,
it in-
man. I've never heard a live recording of that one.
Yeah. It would be a good fight song. You're right.
Just Inception. I think we did it. Thank you so much. I had a very distinct moment from a Halloween show at Irving Plaza, which one of these Guaroweens behind me, where you look into the audience and you just pause and say, "The humongous fungus of Urungus." And that was the night I met the humongous fungus of Urungus, who is the next guest on the GWARPod.
All right.
So, and then after that, Ben Eubanks.
Nice.
Johnny fucking Slutman. Yeah.
You're doing a good job here. I like it.
What should I ask this guy? Because I don't know anything about him.
I think you should just ask him about the beginning of Gwar, and what he's been doing since, and like what he remembers and what he thinks about it, and what he remembers about Dave.
Gilded Lily. I don't think he played that since '92.
We tried to play it. I remember like it was up for contention, and I think we've talked about it. It just gets pushed off because there's so many. I mean, like we want to play like 7 songs that are from the new record. Like
Right.
So you've only got that leaves 7.
About half. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, because then there's always songs that get left off of the new tour too, from the new record, and then they just get forgotten about, more or less. Yeah. Fucking awesome, dude. This has been the most epic conversation. Definitely the girthiest GWARPod yet. Thank you so much for being here. You're one of my musical heroes.
Well, thank you, Kevin. You did a great job.
Thank you. Spread the word.
All right.
Give me a good reputation. I'd love to get everyone eventually, but I don't need to pack them all in at once. We had Matt McGuire, and now we have Michael Bishop. So,
all right.
Let me get like a Bob Gorman, or even does Margaret do interviews? I never heard her do any interviews. Let's get her.
That would be interesting. Margaret would be interesting. Bob Gorman would be a great one.
Yeah, I would dig into the Guarchive with him for sure.
Yeah. You'd have fun. I'd like to watch that. And if you can get Dave Muscle.
Well, I'm definitely putting it out there into the world like hardcore. So and Scott Crawl too.
Yep. He'd be a good one.
Those are my top of the list. But for now, we got Johnny Slutman, which is pretty fucking awesome too.
Yeah.
So,
well, take it easy, man, and thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Everyone go buy a ticket to the Psychotherapy Sessions tour.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right.
All right, man.
Bye, buddy.
See you later.
Bye.
Awesome.
GWARPod comes from on GWARPod. GWARPod.